Hello and welcome back to Church of Entropy live streams. I am joined this Friday, even though I guess it's Saturday morning now, isn't it? Where you're in New York. So happy weekend, everybody. Great timing, I think, for a conversation with trans infinityism, which I have to, preface this with saying that I don't know what that is yet, but I have a slight idea, an inkling, if you will. A long time friend of the show, Kashif, who has, I think, done a couple streams. So I know I've at least heard you in one stream, and I forget who hosted it, but you were sort of going into a pretty detailed explanation about certain concepts. So hopefully we can get into some of that today. Hand the floor over to you to introduce yourself and start the show.
Hey, thanks for the introduction, Jennifer. Yeah, I guess we've been sort of wandering around each other's spheres for a number of years now, probably about 3 now. If I don't, I always know how long I've been orbiting you by kind of like the feeling I get. So I'm pretty sure it's been 3 years. And yeah, I think the podcast you may have been referencing would have been called maybe punching right, punching left, not sure. And I think that was a top discussion topic was perhaps irony culture, probably postmodernism. I'm not sure if you remember it or.
All I know is it reminded me a little bit of Pill Eater.
Oh, Pill Eater. Oh, okay, wow, okay. Yeah, somewhat notorious. I think now somewhat reformed, but yeah, I do. You know what? No, it's all coming back. Yeah, it's yeah, very interesting talk. So yeah, I actually, to be honest, you're saying trans infinitism, which is my that's actually a term I'm using to describe your ideas. So just to kind of point the mirror back at you, I thought this is a term we could agree on, maybe, because I think we disagree on a bunch of things, although I never know but I've taken to calling your term your ideology or ideas trans infinitism, and I think it maybe comprises this idea that the world as it is, the reality that we see every day, it might have a structure, and that's something I think both the left and the right have tangled over. There's kind of two slippery slopes here. The immediate, the most conspicuous one is the right, which seems to be attracted to this idea that we don't have free will. And some of the post-left people have gotten into it, like Sam Harris and so forth. So naturally, that freaks the left out, and they don't want anything to do with it. And they don't want anything to do with the right either. Um, then coming from the right side, I think what you have is something I would call, all right, this is going to be a kind of a tongue twister, maybe a little unwieldy. The term I would use is something called materialist scientism. So that would be like, that would be different from the plain old, that would be different from the plain old logical positivism, which the right is notorious for. And I think by materialist scientism, what I'm saying is that the left is looking for this precise measurement. And when they get a precise measurement, they try to apply it, they try to argue that it has as wide a context as possible. You see a bit of, I guess, scientific fundamentalism on the left, where if they
You mean
find a
like
measure.
they're
Mhm.
trying to prove something before they go to measure it?
Well, I guess what I mean is the most common, the most common phenomenon, the most common example I can give of that, the most conspicuous example I can give of that is probably, the much maligned sort of a very notorious cancel culture of the left, or the woke culture. And what it is basically they treat everything you say as a. So there's two types of think about programming, which I think you've probably done in a purely scientific arena. You got R, you got Python, you have a couple other languages, MATLAB. Basically, the inclination of the left, this is sort of their guilty pleasure. They love to treat every statement as a declarative function. So what happens is, generally statements can be divided into two sides. You have declarative. You have positive statements and you have normative statements. The basic issue with the left is if you say anything positive, which means kind of like if you say anything attributive, if you state a quality, even if you're just stating the other side's opinion and you don't necessarily agree with it, they will immediately treat your statement as a declarative statement or a normative statement that you are agreeing with this and this thing. You know what I mean? And they start to sort of police the syntax, and you say, well, you can't use this word because this word was historically used by the other side. And it was this thing, I think, where it was a joke, then it was not a joke, and now people are making comparisons to Bolshevism, which I think is a little weird, but I see where that's going. I mean, I see why they're making those comparisons. But yeah, I mean, what is your take on that?
My take on your dissection of the right-left paradigm. I was following up until you
Mhm.
were saying how I guess what reading between the lines seemed like what I was doing was maybe triggering both sides for different reasons. Well,
Right,
one,
right.
I like
So
that materialist scientism.
thanks. Yeah, yeah, that term. That's a great term. So materialist scientism would basically characterize the left-right divide thusly. Um, the right wing is loves to divide the world into true and false. Every phenomenon, every statement, every category, every quality falls into one of two boxes: true or false. So that side would be called logical positivism. And then on the left side, you have what I would call materialist scientism, or you can call it materialistic scientism, which means that they argue that they would argue that a precision measurement has as wide a quantitatively precise measurement has as wide of a qualitative context as possible. So I mean that's my experience. Um, do you agree or do you disagree, or what do you see the left do? What do you see happening on the left side of the spectrum?
Um, well, I mean, I'm just going based on what I've seen the Americans, so I don't think
Mhm,
it's probably the exact same thing in Europe, but the right seems to view science with a sort of, I
mhm.
don't know, distrust, whereas the left seems to want to use science to justify its beliefs. That's my general approach to understanding where people are coming from, and in that general sense, like I don't really understand most of what you just said because a lot of those words have no context for me, I guess. Like when
No,
you
I
say
have you. I have you.
positivism, when you
No,
say
no. I mean,
positivism, I'm like,
mhm.
I don't know what positivism is exactly.
Okay, okay. I have you. I have you. I do. I'm sorry about that. So, I do.
Well,
You are
don't
a
be
pure
sorry.
scientist.
Don't be sorry. I mean, we're all trying to make sense of the same thing, and obviously it means
Yeah.
something. But at the
Yeah.
same time,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jen, you're a pure scientist. So, yeah. Well, philosophy also encompasses a bunch of other gobbledygook, including reality, unfortunately. So we're stuck with that. Um, I think the simplest way to put it for your audience, and for yourself is, I think that it appears that in the context of material scientism, which or materialist scientism, which I think is our which I think is the dialectic of our time. I think that the left is looking for well, I think the left is looking for the most precise measurement possible, whereas the right is searching for a standard of measurement. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but it seems
I
as
like
if you like that. Okay. Oh, no, that means a lot to me. It's something special to connect to both. I'll tell you, I was once talking with what was his name, Cliff Knox or somebody. So I think this guy has a PhD in or whatever, but he's a very smart guy. But same way, you cross the fields. They're using their terminology, you're using yours, and then all of a sudden, you say, "Let me like turn the mirror a little bit," and all of a sudden, everyone's on the same page. So.
so I mean, the word that seems to keep coming back for the right term to describe my thing is panpsychism. So
Okay.
is there some way to fuse those two words together? I wonder.
Oh my. Oh my. You just had to dunk me in the water, right?
I'm not
It's like,
trying to dunk you. I'm trying to
okay,
hell I'm trying to see
okay.
what word magic we can come
Okay.
up with. I
I have
know it
you.
always
I
the
have
thing
you.
is that it always turns into a pissing contest in the
Yeah.
message boards because I just don't wanna I feel like it's a waste of time. Whereas talking person to person, that's actually valuable because other people, benefit from it. Whereas
I,
writing walls of text, I know other people can read it, but I feel like most of those people are like Yusef Kanjeri, right? Like he's not serious.
I have you. I have you. Well, believe it or not, a couple of people I know. I don't know who I should and shouldn't call a friend in the sense, it's just a wide world of theory, practice, whatever, just discussion, and they know of about that I share some interest in the topics they share interest in. But there was I have to say there was a great podcast between I think it was between Matthew T. Siegel, who's an integral philosopher at the California Institute of Integral Studies. Pretty the most prominent, basically, integral philosophy institute, yeah, I think in America. And then you had David Long, who's working on something called Integral 2.0. Now, granted that granted that academia, integral philosophy is not accepted by academia. However, they had a excuse me, uh, they had a very interesting back and forth about emergentism, uh, which is the side Matthew T. Siegel stood for, against David Long's side, which was panpsychism. and it just became a very interesting discussion. And I'm very kind of sad to say that some of these discussions, and I know, you know, you wouldn't be surprised by this. It can bring out the sociopath in some people. Some people, when they become very, because this has happened many times in the integral cohort, people have blocked each other. They have made like mean memes about each other, and they
No,
have
that's not very integral, is it?
it isn't, and that is what, that is also a discussion in the community, that perhaps this Ken Wilber guy, I mean, at some point theory has to become practice. It has to work in practice. But if this this is funny, I'm actually going to send Matt Siegel a copy of this broadcast after I hear it through uh, you know uh 3 times. But it's very interesting how this specific topic, that does consciousness, is consciousness uh pre-existent in the universe, or is consciousness does consciousness sort of um exude out of your
Emerge,
brain?
man. Emanate, man.
Right, right. Well, I
Flow,
mean, this is,
rush,
yeah,
gush,
yeah. Oh,
flush.
but I mean, I'm just okay. So again, maybe someone who's been around these sort of kind of theory, these kind of highfalutin circles for a while now, you would have seen this before. But it just seems to bring out the sociopath in everyone. Not
You know
most, I would
why?
say.
I can literally tell you why.
Okay, go for it. I'm
Okay.
listening. Okay.
So people are attracted to the
Mhm.
community sometimes because they hear about whatever
Right.
idealism, my idealism, but a lot of times it's just for like
Yeah.
reasons of like social prestige to some
Yeah.
extent. And if they see something that goes against their presumed social status standing, they're gonna get triggered. And when people get triggered and they get
Oh,
cognitive dissonance, that's when the beast comes out. That's when it's like basically, I don't want to say cognitive dissonance always leads to psychosis, but that's like usually step one.
wow. Well, I have to say there are more than a few psychodynamics at play in the integral community. And I have to say, I might just have to ask you to rename this discussion Materialist Scientism, if you don't mind. But I'm sure we'll be.
I could definitely do that. Not right this second, but I mean whatever. It's just a title. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean you could argue that my system
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is, but you have to include light as material. I guess.
As material. Right. 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 Yeah. Well, I
And
have to.
it's the same with consciousness, right? You're going to run
Mhm.
into the problem of you can't provide, not you, but the
Yeah.
community, quote unquote, can't provide a definition of consciousness. They want to operate without a
Yeah.
definition. They
Yeah. No,
want the
it's just.
freedom. They
Yeah.
want the freedom to operate without a definition of the
Yeah.
thing they're supposedly arguing about its existence.
Right. Right. It's almost as if when if consciousness cannot be reached, it seems as if the mind just reduces into the id form, and we just get real, like, oh yeah, like real nasty with each other. And I mean, you're talking about people that are preaching goodness and light, but when we can't have that shared consciousness, um
It's not
that's
about
when.
shared, I mean, shared consciousness, we do have shared consciousness, but obviously we
Mhm.
have differentiated consciousness too. And this is just the
Okay.
extreme of differentiated consciousness where it's like, well, I
Yeah.
thought I was the cool guy. I thought I was the smart guy. And then you go in and you realize that
Yeah.
smart. And even if you have great accomplishments, you're average because everybody else is only in this community in the first place because they have great accomplishments or they like being associated with people with great accomplishments that are willing to toe that line to whatever extent the line needs to be towed, which is literally zero. As people know, I don't exactly run a tight ship in that sense.
Right. Right. I have to. Well, I have
Okay,
to
so
say.
I want to address something in the chat real quick.
Okay.
Penrose defined it as understanding. Okay, what is understanding then? Do you understand that you always have to keep approaching the definition until it's so darn obvious, until it's something that nobody could ever disagree on? Because then you have your axioms. And then you take your axioms and you set them up, and then it's like a dominoes of logical cause and effects where it's like, well, that was that, but you got to go back, you got to recurse back into a definition that nobody can disagree on, and then you can point the finger at them. It's like, well, you're just being combative basically because you have to sort of force people to realize that until they are willing to commit to a definition of consciousness, they're not going to get answers about consciousness. Right? It's the same with the argument. Like, this is another argument I came up with a lot when I used to do this stuff more, was like, well, I wouldn't believe in God until there was scientific evidence. And then I say, well, what counts? Like, tell me what do you need to see? Like, do you need to see lightning come out of the air in the shape of, like, I don't know what you like, what do you need? And they're like, well, scientific evidence. I'm like, that's not an answer. That's just like, there needs to be something that comes out of this abstraction as a sort of standard of measurement. So for consciousness, there's two definitions actually that you can use, right? One definition one is consciousness is the difference between life and non-life.
Right.
You can do that, and that will actually create a logical dualism. But if you actually press to the very bottom of the causality chain, you will encounter problems with that distinction, because that doesn't actually encompass what consciousness is, which is actually the ability to make observations. And then the question is, what is an observation, right? You have to go back into the definition and say, well, what's an observation? Oh, an observation is a waveform reduction. Oh, well, what's a waveform reduction? Well, it's a waveform having more energy and then that energy becoming crumpled in some sense.
Right. Almost you might say cone-like. So,
it's not cone-like, it's sphere-like. The crumpling is happening in a three-dimensional spherical sense. Like everything is a distortion from, because there is a cone that comes into it at some point. It's not at this stage of the reasoning process.
Right, I have you. It's been a while since I've been in those pure kind of purely reductionist scientist circles, but I do know what you're talking about. It's like we're just going to after one dichotomy to the next, and it's you go lower and lower.
That's the end of the dichotomies, because then your conclusion is that the universe is conscious, and we are, like, I guess you could say we're super conscious because we have an additional field.
Okay.
Is that going to satisfy people though? I think that answer is just too deep to satisfy the types of people that, like, you talk to.
No, I have you. Well, I have to ask. I have to throw a ball at you with my left hand, and hope that you catch it. Now I forgot my question. Could you just repeat the thought you had said? Just
what I'm saying is that the answers to consciousness are too simple to be of interest to the people that are interested in those spheres, of those hoity-toity spheres.
Right. I have you. Well, yeah, it's oh gosh. No, it's just I had a thought and then it slipped out of my mind, and that must be okay. It's coming back. It's all coming back. It's just must be, I think
it's okay. Just take your time.
Yeah, I think consciousness is messing with my mind. It's just like,
yeah, it feels like a toilet getting flushed. You just have to learn. You have to just learn to go with it, because it's like a bubble. It's like a bubble popping. If you try to capture a pop bubble, it's not there. It's just better to sort of lay back and let the bubble resimulate itself. The bubble boy.
Right. It's like So it's right. So right. It's like a spiral dynamic. So you flush the toilet and you're just spiraling down the drain, reaching the greater truth.
Well, it's a far more subtle range than that. So that would be like a metaphor for what's happening. But the subtle bodies sort of go up in order and wouldn't be quite so materialistic of a flush, so to speak.
Right, I have you.
Did you remember the question yet?
I did. It hit me, and there's a term. Maybe if you have a couple, I'm just imagining you like a Rush Limbaugh in the studio. You have a couple monitors in front of you, maybe a big mic. So I don't know how your setup is, but if you have an extra window, if you want to Google this term, this might be the helpful term because you're saying that um, you're saying is everything in the universe conscious, and the term you want to Google is probably a forgotten field in um, philosophy. Probably because things have become so materialistic. But it's called mirology. So if you want to Google it, it's Mereology. And mir is actually means time. That's the reference. So and it's old. It's old. It's going back into the time of the classics. Um, so Mir
Sorry,
and
can you spell that again? I was just setting up the interface.
sure. You think of Mere like C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. So you have Mere, but it's one word, Mereology.
MERE. Sorry, I'm not familiar
Yes.
with this term.
Yes. No. Oh, I'm even surprised that philosophers have heard of it. Mereology.
All right, we'll have a look. Oh, cool. Yeah, so it's like a
Mhm.
I don't know. There's no word. The jargon doesn't exist for this yet, so it's like we got to come up with it. But now we have this like voice in the back of our head, which is like reminding us of how
Mhm.
annoying people who use jargon is. At least
Right.
for
Right.
me,
It, it,
I really am trying to not have jargon in my thing, but like obviously I have to understand different jargon so that I can hopefully put it all into something that is just a small amount of jargon, but not that big.
right. I have you. Well, so this kind of like, I guess if you look at kind of the, I guess the autonomy, not the anatomy. That's the wrong one. I guess the autonomy. I don't know. I'm just getting into weirder words now.
You mean etymology?
Etymology. Right. There we go.
Aren't you
So
glad that you have friends who know when you're
yes,
looking for a
yes.
word what the word is?
Absolutely. The more you know. So
Yeah, you
right.
can't put a price tag on that.
No, you can't. Yeah, and I have to say I am pleasantly surprised by our conversation that we're just kind of I mean, I wouldn't call this exchange the opening of Fantasia, but but it's good enough. I mean, because for some reason I had this preconception that it was going to be like a Martian talking to an Earthling, and I just thought, we would even struggle to, because this happened to Kurt Doolittle a couple times, and without
What
kind of
happened to, what are you talking about? What happened to Kurt Doolittle? Like he spurred or he got
well,
he stopped wanting
well, gotcha. So, well, without kind of either critiquing him or criticizing him too much, without critiquing his work or criticizing him as a person, um, he's to be honest, he's had on a couple of occasions he's had difficulty explaining his work to conventional academics, like actual people who have faculty positions and have degrees in this stuff, because there's so much terminology. Like he has to get through all his terminology, and they want context for each of them, and that's tough too because apparently, like his kind of handlers, like his circle, they haven't dealt terribly with. Because I think a lot of those guys might be from like para philosophy as well.
Okay,
So
let's just slow down here. Paraphilosophy. That's I was following you, but that's a bridge too far, and probably for the audience too. What the hell does that mean?
what the hell? So I guess that's a term I made. That's a term I made up. Um, um, Basically, it means a lot of those guys might be from integral, maybe like right-wing integral groups, integralism. They might be from logical positivism, that whole the true false, this idea that the world is divided into true and false values. Some of them are, yes, those are basically the two groups. So basically, I guess there's been a challenge kind of explaining, for him to kind of
get his fucking ideas across in any way, shape, or form. And it turns out that condescendingly saying people need to lurk for a year plus doesn't actually draw the right people to your cause. Possibly that's just a hypothetical hypothesis I dreamed up.
Got it. I have you. Yeah, because a friend went to see him live, and he was talking with, some professors who dared to kind of hang out with him at a salon. I think it was on the East Coast. And yeah, it was just so much contextualization that at the end, I think, there was not a feeling that there was there was this was a general theory of anything. Even though I have to again vouch that this is a guy who is devoted to his audience. He seems to care about his audience, and he really he looks out for them. I mean, he tries to answer all their questions. I mean, the ones he sees are he feeds the flock, so to speak, and I have to kind of applaud him for that.
Yeah, well, at some point you gotta be able to spot talent, and you can't delegate upwards. So I think a lot of people fail to learn those lessons. They're just sort of condescending in a way. It's just like, well, I could just pay some guy to do this project. It's like, no, you can't just do that.
Right. Absolutely. And so to recap, how did we sort of detour into this?
I don't know. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I know you had a diagram that had an H in it, which I was interested in. That I thought maybe we talk about that, but we don't have to. We can just honestly talk about anything. Like,
yeah, I have you. No, there was something I was going to say, but then we kind of got into just the whole logical positivism surrounding some sort of an attempt to break into academia. Yeah, well, we were talking about contextualization and how that's a problem, right? You kind of, I mean, your theory in many ways has to be understood, right? I mean, it should almost be, I mean, as brilliant as it is, there has to be some self appearance to it, right?
Are you saying that people have to be able to apply it themselves, or people have, like, on what level is that intended to
well, I think it has to be, I think, cognizable. It's not even a word. That's probably a bad word to use.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like influence at the end of the day. It's like, what is it?
Right.
Assimilable, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it should, gosh, this is a good word.
Assimilable is a bad one because it's so darn hard to pronounce, but that's kind of, I think, it has to be able to be imprinted in such a way that it has a positive outcome, or it's like a viral meme that you can't unsee type deal. Those are the two options.
Right. Well, I think what you want to do is you want your idea to cohere. I think that would be the term. You want it to cohere to the past ideas. Cohere means perhaps it should use their terminology, but lead to greater clarity. And I think what happened over there with the East Coast event is there was too much recontextualization, and it just I don't know. It maybe it was
Well,
not.
it does run up against a very difficult. Uh,
Mhm.
it runs up against a wall because
Mhm.
teaching's really hard, and people don't understand how hard it is. And then when they go to do it, they take questions personally, right? Like what you were saying before about the leftists taking everything as declaratives, or however you worded that. Like maybe everybody kind of
Right.
does that a bit at
Right.
some point.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do you mean?
Right, right, exactly. You just can't restate what the other side said because a communist or someone to the far left may view it as a personal endorsement from you. So yeah, yeah, it's a traffic jam. I mean, it's a log jam, I would say. Um,
Well, it's just something that people have to adjust to. Someone in the chat's asking what mainstream theory is closest to mine, where do they diverge, and how does mine add value? Uh, Closest would probably be, I don't want to say electric universe because that
mhm,
has tons of incorrect interpretations. Electricity is one of the forces in my model, but there's also gravity, so it's not a strictly electric universe.
mhm,
The Penrose Hameroff thing, I more or less use that as anecdotal evidence to bolster my claim that the mind is a quantum computer, because it doesn't really matter what the mechanism is, so long as it functions quantum mechanically, we can make predictions based on its geometry, and it
right,
offers explanation of psychic phenomena that nothing else does. And I think it's probably the best formalism to actually undertake a type of psychic studies track. And then that's not to say like that's not even the majority of it. The majority of it is science that is applicable to, but these people don't care about that. They're not scientists, you know.
right, right. Well, have you ever thought of the term electric transfinitism for your idea?
Well, it's four things that happen at the same time. So if I privilege one above the others, like I basically have to privilege entropy above the others. That's why it's Church of
Right,
Entropy, not Church of Electricity.
right,
Uh, so okay, so Tom Johnson asks, "Is the mind the quantum antenna?" No, the antenna is your body. Okay, but your body is an antenna and a projector. So technically, I believe the word is a transponder. I have an article about this.
right.
Possibly it's on my other website there. Um, yeah, I'll put it in the description of this video after it's done. And I'll
Nice.
also change the name to we'll probably have 5 changes by the time we actually get to the end of the stream. So whatever this ends up being called in the end.
Yeah, I have you. Well, it's all about rearranging the deck chairs, as they say. Um, as this ship slowly sinks. So, but
And
yeah.
then mediocre white male says he saw the recent BTC crash coming, so he definitely was picking up waves from the universe. That's
Mhm.
funny. Um,
That is funny.
Yeah,
Not.
the universe has only waves. That's the thing that's like hard to understand is that particles, as the way that we define solids, that's impossible. A solid is an unobservable entity. So even if it exists, it's unobservable. So I don't know that it may exist somewhere, but if it's unobservable if it exists. So
Gotcha. I have
that's
you.
one of the quantum, I don't know, it's like quantum mysticism. I love it
Mhm.
so much. I just wish I could get it to a point where people actually wanted to think about things in that sense.
Right.
But I guess it's just like people are too attached to these other concepts that they've spent so many years. Uh, what's the word? Oh, I can't remember what it is. Cultivating. Yes, it's like they're trying to cultivate an eccentricity, as they said on Seinfeld.
Right. Right. Have you. It's funny. They say walking is well, no, it's funny. The older you get, I think walking it seems to become better and better medicine, not only for your physical health, but perhaps just to, you know, pun intended, jog your thinking. And I seem to remember, precisely, exactly what I was going to say prior to our sort of plunge into, sort of the material scientism Kurt. Well, and personally, I first of all, I like him. I mean,
It's okay. It's okay. I'm not gonna tell anybody
okay.
that you
Yeah.
said anything remotely bad about
Oh,
Sir Doolittle.
okay. No, I
The
like the
troll
crew.
will not come out of his cave and have any
Gotcha.
tantrums.
Gotcha. Well, what I was gonna mention to you, because you mentioned about how we just keep, we keep, so purely in the realm of science. So let's say, like, hypothetically, scientists are saying we just keep deconstructing, and we keep deconstructing, and we get into, smaller and smaller dichotomies, and finally we're like, okay, it's all
They
just
go
a
into
wave.
synthetic dichotomies at that point.
Right, right. So what we start saying is it's all just a waveform.
No,
And
they've been going into synthetic dichotomies, so to the point of having something like 16 fundamental particles, quote unquote, which aren't even particles because there is no such thing. So they're way
right,
off.
right, exactly. Well, I have to tell you, so this is, again, I guess, me speaking. Just imagine like a pure philosopher talking. I mean, not even, not even perhaps a a scientific philosopher. I mean, a philosopher of science, or a a cultural theorist, or anyone thing. Just from the perspective of pure philosophy. Uh, to be very clear, a wave cannot, reality cannot be the substance. Oh, okay. Human reality, or you might call reality in itself, or what you might call, the world, uh, it the universe. It cannot be composed of just waves. Waves are the basic issue with that type of psychology. So I'll tell you, that's a lot of that, very popular in positive psychology, and probably acid, psychedelic kind of, it's all, there's a reason why philosophy proper does not accept that an explanation. And it's sort of, it comes from the same root as, you might say, pure math. But there's something that scientists and mathematicians, let's just, not, leave science alone. Let's just go farther back. Let's just go into, math, pure math. Believe it or not, now, scientists don't come out right away. Okay, mathematicians don't come out right out and say it, but a wave is actually composed of parts. A wave is
No, it's
actually.
not. It's like saying a cycle is composed of parts. It's like, no, a cycle only makes sense as a cycle. The idea of it having constituent parts is not really real. It's the cycle that's real, and the constituent parts are things that can be sort of approximated within it.
Okay, got it.
So for
So
something to be wave-like simply means that it must
Mhm,
have certain qualities, right? It must have emanation. So what's
mhm.
emanation?
And what is emanation?
Yeah, what's emanation? It's expansion, right? It's expansion from some center. So it's a spherical
Okay.
expansion and emanate, and that's the law of entropy. Matter or
Mhm.
waves emanate. So
Okay.
there's no contradiction. The only contradiction is, oh, I don't want that to be true because then all my linear approximations to reality can't be right, which is actually
Sure.
quite a rigid way of thinking because that's essentially what myth feels.
Mhm.
So, oh
Right.
wait, you're
Well,
you're not actually taking the position that they've already rejected this hypothesis outright, that waves can't be the base thing because waves have to have parts. Like, are you saying that they have to have crests and like peaks and troughs type thing?
okay. Okay. I have two questions for you, and I hope we don't sort of go down, Guattari's rhizomes or whatever.
I don't
Uh,
know what that means, but
okay.
I
It
don't want
means
anything to go bad either, so it's all good.
I got you. I got you. So rhizomes, if you think about it, are pathways of indecision. So if you think about an intersection, but you really can't decide either way. Like you really don't know if one is better than the other. So this is just an idea out of philosophy, where this idea that your mind might be made out of an uncountable number of rhizomes, your subjective mind. So it's so this idea that, let's say I have two separate questions for you, but if we can't agree, those two rhizomes become four. Those, you know what I mean? Those four become 16. So I have
Are
two
you talking
separate.
about like branches on some sort of metaphysical decision tree?
Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah. So I think we can neatly clip that, maybe avoid that. I just have to ask you two questions. Is that okay?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay. The first question is, do you think the center of emanation, number one, do you believe that the center of emanation is the individual mind?
The center of emanation of the mind in the body, I would say, is probably somewhere between the sinuses and the eyes, but it would be lining up with the general spine shape.
Got it. So you're pretty cool with that, right? That the center of emanation might be actually the corporeal individual, right? I mean, it might be your reality, but I mean, it's your mind, right? Are you cool with that?
Well, the center of emanation, you have to be careful, because is the center the cause, or is it just a biological thing?
Oh, okay. That's a good distinction. So right. So let's just
But
imagine.
the way you want to think about it is that the body is something that compresses the field of the mind.
Okay.
So the mind is like the electricity and then the body is like a light.
Right. So you're basically saying that the mind, the body is almost like it has a conformal. It has the effect of conformality on the mind, right?
It's not quite a conformal map. It's conformal in the sense that it looks the way that it does because the mind has oriented it that way. And then the mind itself has a center of energy, which is interpreted as the center of emanation, which is like the area where the majority of the computations are taking place.
Got you.
I guess you could call it the center of consciousness, like center of subjective consciousness. And I don't know if you could argue if you wanted to. I've heard the heart all the way to, basically mid-eyes as the location. So there's a bit of wiggle room.
Got you. Well, yeah,
But
there's
it
some
always
debate.
depends. It depends what kind of conclusion you're trying to make, right? Like, you don't want to be making axioms just so that you can fit them into a foregone conclusion, because after a while it comes across that that's what you're doing. Like, is there some later conclusion you're trying to go to based on this assumption, or is it just a aesthetic assumption?
Okay. Well, I'll leave you with I'll bank with this question, and then we can just kind of just close that one. But would you say that if not conformal, would you agree that the body perhaps has a platonically formal effect, or is it the other way around? I'm not sure myself.
Well, do you want? Okay, if you want, I can just derive it from the ideal form. So, like, what's the ideal form?
Right.
What is it?
I don't want to reveal it.
Well, the thing is that it's relative to where you start, right?
Right. Yeah.
What's the ideal form? So, okay, so how exactly are you phrasing the question here?
All right. Well, maybe we should leave this one alone then. How does that sound? Because I think what's happening now is we can't decide if the body has a conformal effect on the mind, or if the mind has a
No, I
conformal
do
effect.
want to explain that. It's just that it depends where you draw your idealism from. The answer depends on an axiom. So I'm trying to say what is the Platonic form? So I was just trying to see if you would answer
Oh,
me.
I have you. Well, okay. So here's my excuse. Here's my
If you
uh,
don't know, if you don't know, I can just tell you it's okay.
okay. Okay. So here's my qualification. I don't want to tell you.
Okay, so I'll
Okay.
answer the question. In this case, it would be a sphere.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So your Platonic form is a sphere. So you have to go through the metaphysics/physics of a sphere, and you realize that a sphere is something that is conceivable but not observable, because an observation is something that happens to the sphere, and once it happens to the sphere, it's no longer that same sphere.
Right. Right.
So no matter what, like basically we have to take it quote unquote on faith that spheres exist, but we don't really need to do that because we can sort of prove it to ourselves mathematically that it's the form that minimizes the torque about the center.
Right. It's almost like a minimization of torque, or some would even say more metaphysically even.
Well, I think that's what metaphysics should sound like, is some type of geometric argument, because that this is
Yeah.
the utility of metaphysics, is to string together these types of logical sort of
Right.
ideas, right? So you ask, the question of what's the mind, what's the body, and the mind
Mhm.
is like in the geometry of the sphere. So is the body. It's just that the
Right.
body is in the most gross level of materialism, and so it's the least like the pure forms realm. And that's why the quantum periodic table is, just like a bunch of spheres, right?
Right. Right. So what you're saying is, from your point of view, as a scientist or someone with a science background, at the very least, at the very least, philosophy should be measurable. Like the metaphysics should have.
Not necessarily measurable, because there's ethical problems with measuring that stuff. Because you're like, well, we got to measure what's inside someone's mind. How do you do that? You have to gain someone's trust. You can't do it via machine. So it does actually help to just be in the realm of abstraction for metaphysics, because the sphere is useful, right? Because you're saying, okay, so the sphere is, we're starting at a sphere and then it's turning into a mind, which is, I've showed the picture a bunch of times. Can you see the actual stream though?
No, I have you. You're on pure voice.
Okay, because I've got this diagram that, have I sent you the diagram of chakras before? I don't think so.
Well, you know what's funny is, let me zoom into the YouTube link, and you are sure they are broadcasting A, B, and C. So let me jump into that. Um,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, because I had two other questions for you, and then
No, I
yeah.
just
So
wanted
we
I wanted to answer the question because it's an important question, damn it. And I wasn't trying to blow you off. It's a hard chain of reasoning, and I just wanted you to follow it. So let's try to go like this. You got abstract sphere.
right.
Do you sort of understand why it's important, or is it, I don't know,
No,
where
I
do
do.
you land
I
on
do. I understand. I understand the abstraction of the sphere is a Platonic form.
that? And
It is.
in this case, it's what we're used. There's more than one quote unquote Platonic form, right? Like there's
Right.
probably, I don't want to say infinity of them, but there's a lot.
Right.
Uh, so it's on there now. So you start with a sphere, and what you have to do is sort of bend it like a balloon,
Hmm.
twist it up. Have you ever
Hmm.
seen a balloon animal before?
I have. I think I just saw one. Oh my God. I don't even get started. It's
Did you
just the
see
way
one
our society.
today? Because that would be
No,
crazy if
it's
you
just.
did.
I guess it's the way society is going nowadays. But I guess someone was carrying a blow up, like in the shit, and I immediately thought it was like dark, and I thought, oh my God, he's carrying around a blow up doll, and I was like kicking myself. I said, it's like there was a time when we would assume like normal, the best about people, and it's now thanks to, I guess, the sort of the rise of, you might call, crass culture or low culture. We automatically assume some dastardly deed, but it was I think it was a blow up animal or whatever, just like.
Okay, and just
Did we?
browsing past why he was carrying a blow up animal down the street. Can you see the actual diagram?
I think I do. Let me just go back to the. Okay, let
So
me
it's
take a look.
basically a it's a blow up doll of something that was originally a sphere.
Oh, I got it. I see it right there. Yeah, yeah. It looks
Okay,
like a.
so platonic form is sphere, and then we have our secondary platonic form, or whatever you want to call it, our into the first realm of realness, or whatever you want to call it, the living consciousness. Then you have this, and then you can think of the body as being like something further, which is assimilated by this structure
All
from the
right.
materialism in order to propagate this structure as it exists. It tends, there's the principle of inertia, just wants to stay the same.
Gotcha. Well, I just want to.
Does that answer the question? So I guess it means that the mind and body are technically co-created.
Yeah. In other words, they're coherent with respect to each other. They. Yeah. Well, I just want to leave you. I just want to leave it with a zinger. I will tell you. Just this is me talking. I think I will state. I will say that there are an uncountable number of platonic forms, and this might be. I can't, qualify that right this instant for you, but this is just the position from where I stand or speak, and I think the sphere would be one of them, one of an uncountable number of platonic forms.
Yeah, I like that. And
Okay.
the more of these platonic forms we can bring into the realm of applicability, the more people will see the
Right.
utility of it. Because I think people are sort of underestimating the utility of the platonic form approach on that level. Because it's like, to me, that's
Oh,
pretty self-evident. It's a space-time event. That's another way to look at it, is as a
mhm,
space-time event, which is an
mhm.
abstract concept which contains both space and time, sort
All
of
right.
sandwiched together.
Right, right. I have you. Yeah, I have to just interject and say I don't know. I'm just really pleased to, I guess, cohere with you on a number of topics, or anneal with you, and it's I don't know why a little bit fluttery coming in, going into the chat with you, and I said I hope we're speaking, we're gonna agree on a few fundamental
There's been a
messages.
lot of shit posting on Facebook. I think I'm just getting a little grumpy with those
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
I have you, and I have to just say that you are one of the few that I've seen, like a few. Not only are you're on the right, you're female, and you're talking about hard science. You're hard science, and just the combination of those three, that's a real. I mean, that's like a cold cock almost. You know what I mean? It's that you're a bit of a unicorn, um, and it's just the fact that we could just even you know sort of I guess caress the same plane. I think the term would be broach. Maybe we could broach the same plane. That's really meaningful to me. So
Oh, thanks so much for saying that. I really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, you
uh,
can come on a weekend review sometime if you feel up to it, or we could do another solo stream. I'm always up for the sharing of ideas and such. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah, awesome, awesome. Hold on, give me some. Yeah, no, it's yeah, there aren't to be honest, well, I did have two more questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
outside of the whole, does the mind conform to the body, or does the body conform to the mind? Which exerts the gravitational effect on the other. My second question, and I think this was the one that really tickled me a few kind of about nearly an hour ago, probably less than 45 minutes ago. You mentioned about perhaps this. You kind of said this kind of statement. You said that what if entropy is the fundamental building block of time, or what have you. So my question to you is now it's my turn. What do you think the fundamental structure of negative entropy is? Do you think negative entropy has a structure?
Yeah, it's the quantum periodic table. It's the order.
Wow. Okay. That's
yeah.
Funny.
So,
I
can you see the stream? Do you think it looks cool or what? I did like a reflection of the image that you sent me.
Right.
I love that effect.
Cool. Yeah. No, it's funny. I had some tea in my mouth and I nearly spit it out when you just brought up that you basically threw the kitchen sink at me with that periodic table, and I know you've done that to many people.
Well, yeah. You asked the question. So, I mean, is that the order? I mean, in a way, it's the source of the changes. It doesn't change. It does display order. So I guess you could say that this is more fundamental than entropy in the sense that entropy operates within the parameters of this structure here. But then you could also argue that entropy is more fundamental because it's like a chicken and egg thing. The periodic table isn't technically everywhere. It's only in the parts of the universe where there's observable matter, which is like not even a very large proportion of the universe.
Right. Okay. So I think that I can do with that explanation. I do have to kind of.
Oh yeah, I saw Jacob Bartle talking about neg entropy. Yeah, why don't you throw the periodic table at him next time he uses that term?
Oh wow. Yeah, I have to look up, see what he's posting. I have to.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, well, I have to kind of throw the ace of spades on the deck, and I have to say that formalizing the structure of negative entropy is, or maybe, or is, or maybe, the fundamental question that unites the arts and the sciences. And
yeah, that is so true, because it's like the symmetry thing. That's an artistic thing mostly.
Wow, so we've already agreed on sort of two of the two fundamental questions. We agree that an uncountable number of Platonic forms is.
Well, it all depends on how you define it, right? I mean, I'm sure I could come up with a series of arguments where I say there's only one Platonic form, it's the sphere, because everything else is derived in some sense by the sphere. So I would say probably that's true, but then in terms of useful secondary forms, there's a lot of them. I don't know about an uncountable number, but maybe.
Right.
It would more be like that there would be a finite number of useful forms that may change throughout the ages if people changed a little bit, like the doshas, That won't work if nobody is Vedic, if everybody's Catholic, which does occur in some populations. Like, it just won't work as a system anymore. It'll break down. There are certain presumptions, but the idea of Ayurveda will still be useful. I don't know if it's in history because it's a strategic approach. So,
Right.
But that
So
would be using spheres. I think the correct way to approach all these problems is with spheres, because if you start with a sphere, you know your causality is correct. It's just visualizing three-dimensional spherical contortions or whatever you want to call them is very hard to do. So it's like, well, let's just use a line instead.
yeah. So right. So step one, we agree that an uncountable number of Platonic forms, might
You
be.
you could argue that every single mathematical
Yeah.
equation is a Platonic form.
Right. Oh,
Can't
wait,
you?
Let me hold on. It's late at night, and you just said something. I almost fell off my table. That was. It's like you and I are in a ring, and you just hit me with a good hook there. You said that mathematical equations might be. Could you just say it the way you said it?
I said every mathematical equation is a Platonic form.
Wow. So I'm gonna have to write.
Well, I mean,
Something
it's by
close to that.
definition, right? Like mostly it's out of algebra or like algebraic geometry proof type thing. They all have, their idealized forms.
Right. Well, the note I'm going to write to myself later on, I don't know if I should just say it, but
If you say it, you can just re-listen to the stream. You don't have to write it down.
well, sometimes I'm afraid I give people ideas, and then
You can't hold on to ideas that way. You can sort of hold on to a process, but an idea is just out there,
Yeah, well, I guess then you can run off with them and quote unquote make them your own. So how about
But
if I say
yeah, but like you should be worried about more so the consequences of speaking something false and then somebody listening to you. That should be your main motivator. That then you'll not be motivated to say silly things. Pineapple platypotamus is asking, or not asking. He says he still can't figure out if math is real. It's so real and so not. So again,
right,
it's the definition, right? No, math isn't real. It's another set of idealized forms, though, so it has a utility function. So you
okay, so how about this? Remind me at the end of this stream that Kasha, you are going to say the unsayable thing. So remind me at the end of the chat, and I'll say it.
the unsayable thing.
The thing that I didn't want to say, but then I'll say it just for you.
Well, there's some stuff I don't say, and I know what it is. So there's like I could draw the line really easily. But I mean, if you don't know anything, it's probably just better to worry about saying something that isn't true and having somebody listening to you, having somebody agree
Yeah.
or think
Oh,
you're.
okay.
Then that's
Okay.
terrible karma, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just gonna kind of slough my bad karma onto you.
Oh, okay. Well, you can just well, that's what I want you to do. Just say, yeah, whatever Jed says, and then that'll be good karma on you. Or I'll assume your karmic burden if you send the stragglers my way.
All right. I
So
have you.
whether math is real, like it's not real, but the universe is mathematical, right? So that's the periodic table, that's fucking real, right? In a
Right.
sense, but it's
Right.
not really real. It's just I don't know, meta real. Like I don't know what you want to call it, but is math real? That's actually maybe a good question. I find a bit of a frustrating question. I guess you could call math the noble lie.
Well, yeah. Well, I was actually gonna go on to the second thing we agreed on, which I thought was amazing.
I think it's just normal. I mean, to me, it's always a shock when people don't agree, and that's where it's like, really? Okay. But it's just like agreeing. That's like, yep, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. Kashif was going to come on the show and agree with me. Nah, I didn't think that. I try to live with no expectations, and I find that goes a lot better.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, my expectations were very low as well. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that.
It's not about low expectations. It's just about purging the expectation function. That's the most healthy thing. One of the most healthy things you could do is actively purging your expectation functions of things that are not basically you should have high expectations of yourself. And it's
Right.
okay to have expectations from other people if you can meet those expectations yourself. It's usually better to be above the expectations you set for other people.
Right. Right. I have you. I have you. So this, I guess, so we agreed on a second fundamental thing. You and I did. You and I agreed, and that was we agreed that the fundamental question that requires a solution, in any field and all fields, is the structure of negative entropy.
I think that
So
argument that I think that would be an argument that nobody would disagree with, but I don't think anyone's ever
okay.
actually put that argument out there. So
Mhm.
good for you. You came up with something that is quite helpful for me because I could just slot
Yeah.
my little cake that I bake. Someone said it looked like a cake. It's
Yeah.
like, aren't you kind of stretching just a little bit?
Right.
I mean, it
Well,
kind of, I don't want to say it looks like a sex toy, but there's something sexual about it.
uh, um, well, I mean, we
It's got a certain joviality to it and a certain sternness, and it's just
Mhm.
like those
You mean
IKEA spheres.
you mean like where laughter and the orgasm intersect?
Well, yeah, they intersected a quantum phase transition
Mhm.
because, like, the mind has a certain range that it likes to operate in, and when it goes outside that range, it has to discharge back into that range, and that's
Right.
how it does it. That's why
Right.
laughing is healthy for the same reason that having an orgasm is healthy. But I guess you
Okay.
got to have a balance. You can't be it can't be a hobby type thing.
Right. Well, it definitely rotates your quantum state, so to speak. So,
The transitions it. That's the word.
right, right.
So there's
So,
the mind transition is the like laughing is like the actual like electrical feeling of laughing or
right,
something like that.
right. Yeah.
And then the
Well,
mind shifts quickly from one state to another, and that takes like about, I don't know, 10 seconds or less. And then the body feels the result of that.
right. Well, s- the structure of negative entropy, if anything, it would do it would perform this function, or it would do, yeah. It would unite the world of the arbitrary with the absolute. So we would know why the arbitrariness, or yeah, uh, arbitrary goes to all the trouble of existing. And I think that is a very it is the question of the subjective era, and it would lead us into the post-subjective, a more post-subjective, or the metastatic era. That this is what I'm kind of feeling. What do you think?
Superpower 2020 is what I think.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, I don't, I don't want to, resurrect, try to resuscitate a dead horse.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
I've got
No,
my
but
I've got my article here of quantum mechanical discharges where
yeah,
I'm talking about them.
yeah.
Lightning is another example.
Yeah,
The
well, no,
sun.
no, this is, it's always kind of, it tickles me. So I'm speaking of, humor and all that, and just, all things funny. It tickles me a lot when I see other cultures using that kind of the Vedic terminology and the Hindu, the Hindu symbolism. Um, it because I have to. The thing is, whatever, being from the Indian subcontinent, it does not make you in and of itself. It doesn't make you anything. It doesn't make you better intrinsically than other human beings. I don't feel, superior per se. It's just one of shock and awe. I guess astonishment akin to what perhaps Jewish people feel when they think of Christianity. this idea that other cultures would actually go to all the trouble of, other ethnicities would go to all the trouble of sort of co-opting your, I guess,
I don't want
values.
people to feel like I'm trying to co-opt Hinduism. I'm merely trying to glorify the Veda. I don't even claim to have initiation into a Vedic line in this life. I don't. I'm
Oh,
merely devoting my work to the
yeah, no,
glorification
wonderful,
of that.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah, no, it's fine. Well, I guess I'm flattered while not feeling um as if I'm a god being myself. You know what I mean?
I don't see you that way.
Okay, wonderful. No, yeah, it's just I don't know what it is. It's just it tickles me when but I wonder what at the same time I have to wonder what people, what human beings from so long ago in my area of the world, you know, I mean, to the extent we're from that area.
Well, we could be pretty sure it's not whores and spandex. Howie wants to know how seriously you take supralibrix.
Oh my, oh my, is this the beginning of a blood feud? Mm.
I really honestly, my whole thing is just like I want you to be comfortable because I want you to come back. Like yeah.
I got you. I got you. Um,
So please don't feel like you have to answer. I just wanted to
okay.
put it.
No, no, it's great to. Well, I think we spoke as 2 days ago. As recently as. So, I just, I don't know. I guess the jury's out, and the questions that we are kind of talking on right now are so fundamental. I mean, even Supra himself, even Supra would himself would acknowledge he might be a bit trivial uh, in reference to all these questions, don't you think?
You think he's willing to and accept the possibility that he's trivial? I think he thinks what he came up with is worthwhile.
Yeah.
But I also think he thinks that he is not really an expert of whatever. Anyway, I'm screen sharing something he posted on Facebook today. So my prediction is we won't be seeing him for much longer because
Mhm.
I can't imagine having success unless people, I don't know. If this has success, I completely
Yeah, I have a feeling if he finds success in any way, shape, or form, you're not going to see him on Facebook much more longer. I I I I've always felt like he's sort of like he's here for a reason, and in other words, there's a telos behind his presence. So telos is, I guess, Greek for purpose, perhaps, or but yeah, there's a reason he's here, and once that's fulfilled, I see too much of him on Facebook. So
So you're saying the fact that he's on Facebook means he's not having success?
right, he's only here to meet X number of people.
Well, he said he wanted a website that could be shown to Elon Musk, a logo, cryptocurrency, a wiki, a course in physics, a presentation for a psychologist, and this list just goes on and on. And it's like,
Yeah,
is he trolling?
yeah. It's wow. He came prepared. He's got his.
That's not prepared. That's a list. How is that prepared? I know people that make lists and they're the most disorganized fucking messes in the world who never get anything done. A
Yeah.
person who makes a lot of lists is a person who doesn't get much done.
Right. 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 Absolutely. Well, I have a feeling that he's as disparate as his demands may seem to be, as arbitrary as they seem. I I think he may get what he wants. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know if he's gonna get all the money in the world, but he's gonna get. He's gonna get. The 25,000 he wants or whatever for his raise. He seems to be attracting a number of, I guess, fellow autists. So you can imagine, Supra waving on Facebook saying, How do you do, fellow autists? And he's just kind of sending out the feelers, sending out this, you have, you just always start it, when you want to signal your tribe, you always start with fellow whatever. So,
My fellow scientists, how do
right.
you do?
Yes, exactly. My fellow wankers, how do you do? So I shouldn't have said that, but
Well,
it's yeah.
Howie, why don't you tell us how you feel about Super Librix in the chat?
Oh, is Howie here?
He's in the chat. I didn't send him the link because you said you just wanted to be a solo,
Mhm.
so YOLO.
Oh, got it. Well, if he's in the audience, he can always kind of deposit his thoughts in the in the text box or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of the last time I made a list.
Mhm.
I know I've made quick little lists of like numbers when I was doing estimations and such,
Right.
but lists in terms of stuff to do, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it would
So,
be like,
mhm.
value proposition. Most people have their heads so far up their own asses with vanity projects that nobody's looking to do anything collaborative.
Yeah, I was going to say Supra actually, or whatever. Supra comes across as remarkably put together as a person for just a vanity project. I mean, this guy is clearly some sort of he's something of a self-starter, if anything. I mean, he's he seems to have just he seems to be too, I guess, internistic. All right, this is going to sound weird. Too internistically coherent to be just a troll. You know what I mean? It's just,
Well, he's literally trolling me. He's like tagging me constantly. It's like, what the
oh,
hell is wrong with you?
oh yeah, he's got to stop that. I guess I left one of his group, but I still respond to the tags because his group is open and yeah, it's all over the place. So yeah, how much? I did have one final question or one more question for you. Seems as if just so we did the question of negative entropy, as the fundamental unifier
But then it's like
between.
that's only a starting point, right? Like
Right.
if you want to make this argument to other people, you need to start with that
Mm-hmm.
and then work your way down to something they can actually understand. I mean, I think the image is itself compelling, but it's
Right.
not it's not relatable. I mean, it's like the most unrelatable object, right?
Ever. Yeah. Almost like what? Okay, so I don't even want to like mention this guy, but what Slavoj Žižek would call the sublime object. So so he's not a physicist. He's not a scientist per se. Someone who's just a very astute liberal arts thinker and a cultural theorist. And he called it the sublime object of ideology. And in physics, you would call it negative entropy. The structure of.
How about just the order?
The order. Okay. Like, gosh, wasn't that a TV show or something? Like,
Well, whatever it is, it's time to culturally appropriate it. We're the knowers of the order. Ah, ah.
gosh, I don't know why. Of all the movies, one just popped into my head. The League, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, it's going to be more epic than that.
It's gonna be
Platypodibus is asking conscious ordering. You got to distinguish between energy, order, and yeah, it's really just energy and order that you have to So you could say that the mind orders the body. So the reason your body looks the way that it does is because your mind told it to. But then as your body's growing, there's choices from the environment, obviously, like you only have a certain range of foods. So it's like a back and forth type thing. But predominantly it's in that the ordering. Yeah, there's a certain order to the body, like it's near symmetrical. It's not 100% symmetrical, but it's something.
Right, right,
Consciousness orders things. Yeah, so there's your example. Consciousness orders
right.
the universe. Again, you got to define consciousness, right? You got to define. The problem is that the more correct definition for consciousness implies that the universe is conscious.
Right.
So, what do you think, Kashif? Do we go with the real definition and sound like hash heads, or do we go with the non-real definition and sell out the universe?
All right. Well, I have a brain teaser for you.
No, I need to know. What's your opinion? What do you think? Do we define consciousness as living versus non-living, or the ability to make observations?
Okay, well, Miss Dr. Sharvix.
Oh my God, please never say that again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Okay. Riddle me this. Is there an order to consciousness, or is there an order of consciousness?
I'm not sure there's any difference in those two.
Okay.
Because of and to are designators that have a temporal implication, and time is not a primary concept in this structure.
Okay.
So it becomes, it's like, it sucks because we think time is real. The problem is that it isn't as real as other things. And we have this assumption of, oh, let's throw time on the same level as all these other real things. So it's like, it's a stairs, whatever case, you know, the metaphysical and the physical, there's like a staircase between them.
Right. Okay.
And if you make a false assumption, you're going to fall down the stairs, is my point. Energy does not actually mean mass. Energy is everything. Sorry, somebody in the chat was talking about energy rules mass. Energy is everything. So it's the like Mayavadi version of physics where it's like everything is energy, man, but it's like nobody gives a shit if you say that. Even though it's true, it's what you would call tautological. It's just like, okay, everything's energy. Yeah, okay. And then it's just like, so what?
Right.
Whereas consciousness is, again, you have these two definitions, and the answers to all these derivative questions is going to depend 100% on what's your definition of consciousness. Is it living versus non-living, or is it the ability to make observations, or is it some other definition?
Okay. All right. So I'll just give you a flat answer then. How does that sound?
Well, if you don't have to give me an answer right away. It would just be awesome if you could think about the question, because it's partly to do with the feedback I get from other people, the direction I'm going to go in the future. Because to me, like I could do either one. If there's some other definition of consciousness, it's probably going to be tough for me to accept it. But I'm not saying it's outside the range of possibilities, but it's always going to come down to a questioning of like, well, what is that? What is that? What is that? And if you can't recurse back into your questions to something so simple that it's basically like, you gotta just be able to chop it down to simple stuff.
Right. Okay. I can accept that. Well, to state it plainly to answer the question, is consciousness living or non-living?
No, this is the question. I just want to make sure you understand the question. It's about how we're going to define the word consciousness. Okay, you have two possible definitions. One definition is that stuff that's alive is conscious, and stuff that's not alive is not conscious. That's definition one. Definition two is consciousness is the ability to make observations.
Right. Okay. Well, can I answer the question?
The thing is that neither of those questions is right or wrong. It's a purely aesthetic thing.
Right. I have you. I mean, I see what you're saying. Well, I would say Well, just to answer the question, I mean, the question that I thought I was asked, that I thought was being asked, is consciousness, living or alive or dead? I would say that consciousness is very, very plainly, consciousness is it's dead in the future. So it all yeah. So imagine like time as a block. Consciousness is outside of the block. No, consciousness is outside of the block and it's dead. However, we are only in the partition or the frame or the part where it's alive. So
isn't that backwards though? Doesn't the flesh die, but the soul doesn't die?
Okay. Well, what if consciousness is a reference object in the future, and it's simply
then you have
not.
to define object and future, and you run into the same problem. Okay, I'm probably going to have to repeat this a lot of times. There's this problem that time isn't real on the same level that space-time is real, okay? So what's really real at the bottom, and I'm not frustrated with you, I'm just more trying to get this across in a way that makes sense, but space-time is the thing that's real. Space and time are relative to space-time. So they do happen. Obviously, no one's going to disagree that time is a thing, but we think that it's real on a level that it's not real, which leads to these problems.
Right. Well, it leads to sort of the problem of measurement.
It's because consciousness precedes time, basically. If you actually have the mechanical thing working correctly, consciousness arises way before time does.
Right. Consciousness precedes time, and then we start to question, whether free will exists or not, and
well, karma means there's not really free will in the sense that you can free yourself from the forces of nature, but you can obviously exert control. See, the reason why this bothers people is because they realize on some level that they don't have a lot of control on their lives. It's like a coping mechanism. Hey, Elliot, nice to see you in the chat, man. Welcome to the show. Okay, look, time. If you guys go around telling people fucking that time doesn't exist, I'm going to have a giant tear forming in my eye. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
I'm not talking to you, Kashif. I'm more scolding the audience here. Guys, do not make it seem like I am saying that time's not real. I am not saying that. Time is, I don't want to say hyper real, but time is very mystical and operates on multiple scales at once. And I think the thing we recognize as time is actually entropy. But they're like adjacent to each other. They're so similar, right?
Right.
Are they the same thing, right? And then it's just like there's this metaphysical questioning where it's like, we just may not be smart enough yet to know the answer to that question.
Well,
maybe in a couple centuries.
Well, Jen, have you ever heard of the term precession?
Are you talking about like with stars and planets and stuff?
Right. So instead of procession, like a procession of horses, this term would be called precession.
Yeah, precession is something that it means something to do with a planet deviating or something.
Right. So precession, Precession. So in the metaphysical sense, what precession means is that consciousness precedes time. Wait for it. From the future. So consciousness does precede time. But
again, future is relative to time existing. If you're going to talk about the future, you got to talk about what time interval you're in. Otherwise, there is no future because you have to start in the domain of energy and forms, and then eventually you can go down to the time. Consciousness is way before time. That's maybe the problem, is that if you define consciousness as relative to any concepts that are
Okay.
time dependent, you're fucked.
Right. So what if we could put time all the way in the back?
There's no way to do
The
that because time literally is transcendent, right? Like the
right.
quantum periodic table is time equal to infinity and space equal to zero. And I had a thing, I
Mhm.
wrote it on one of the lists that I don't make, is space quantization and time pervasion. So it's like a law of physics that's ingrained to the order of the universe. You can't say, we'll put time to the back of it, unless you're saying you're just not even going to include any time or time adjacent phenomena, like future past is only defined relative to time. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is all coming back to a definition about consciousness. Do you have it? Are you taking issue with my definition of consciousness? Because I'm giving you two options.
No, yeah, I do see, I do see your, I guess your hypothesis, like what you're saying. Um, so, okay, what if I said this? What would you make of this? What if, what if time is distinct from the structure of time, and consciousness is tautological to the structure of time, but not time itself?
Well, the thing is that consciousness layers.
Mm-hmm.
Time doesn't layer.
Mm-hmm.
Time is constricted to its space-time interval, but it doesn't layer. Whereas consciousness layers. So I don't know. Like, what are you gonna do to like? There's always a complexity problem, right? There's always an infinite complexity problem, isn't there? With these questions, it's like I think it's an infinite regression thing. You have to eventually go to something that doesn't include time at all because time is not, I don't want to say not real, but it's not primary. This is
Well,
really good. This is like really important. So I hope that you feel happy to be part of this conversation because I feel like this is super important stuff.
no, very important. I am on your couch, Dr. Sharp, and you are psychoanalyzing me.
No, I'm talking about consciousness and sticking to a definition of it. Hey, maybe
Mhm.
that is psychoanalysis. Wouldn't that be funny if the future psychoanalysis just involved asking people questions about what they thought consciousness was?
That would be amazing. Um, yeah. Wow. I would accept that treatment. So I like our trajectory, Captain Sharp.
It's so good, isn't it? Isn't the best part like meeting all these people and like all the craziness? You get to see a side of people you don't see in other places, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I have to say I had been mentioning that for the last couple of months. I said, funny how you come for the ideas, but you stay for the people. You stay for the moments, and just how different people are, even on voice, even than they are on text. Everyone has that internet voice, and you think that's kind of the sum total of what they are, and then you hear them on voice, and you find out there was no disagreement. It just had to be reconciled through the through the series of tubes that constitute the internet.
Well, there's a lot of people that will insult you if you show me any support whatsoever. So there's like a
Yeah.
social pressure current that's there that's just like it's a battlefield. Whereas with this, it's like,
Mhm.
well, I don't want to fight with you because if we were going to have a disagreement, we would have agreed to the disagreement beforehand and it would be like a debate, right?
Yeah. Actually, I think what it is it just what it is I so okay. So you're from the side of you're from the side of the chemical analysis. You have to think of it in terms of an energy barrier. And the energy barrier, for voice disagreement is significantly higher. I mean, it's higher than it is on an internet chat room. And it's and then in person. I mean, if you raise the energy bar, for voice disagreements on voice, the energy barrier in person, that's a completely different context. But I think it just keeps elevating. I think it's just harder to disagree with people when you can hear I guess their timbres, their tonality, their the sort of the ebbs and flows of
We
their.
come across as a total asshole if you were like, if I said the stuff I said on message boards here, I mean, people would be way more aroused to ire, right? So,
Aroused to ire. Okay.
but I
Yeah,
mean, you and I haven't had a disagreement in that sense because
yeah.
we kind of know each other's boundaries, and I don't think either of us wants to step on those boundaries. So, I mean, really, like the majority of people, there's no problem, right? But then there's this like contingent of people that are just like, damn, dude, damn. It's
Okay,
funny.
so
It's
yeah,
really
no,
funny to see who's hung around, though. It actually
right.
seems like the dead weight has been shook out now, and now it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's going to be smooth sailing, but I feel that there's a synergy there that wasn't there before.
No, yeah, there is a bit of an energy. I think because I think there's more people that are looking for a spiritual solution.
Well, in the past, somebody like Brandon Hayes would have just blocked me.
Right. Right.
Whereas
Very.
now he's like, "You're a shrew," blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, "All right." I'm just thinking like temper tantrum, right? My
Right.
thing is, I don't want to encourage bad behavior. So
Yeah. Well, I think that to be honest, I think the empiricists, the internet empiricist,
that's
yeah,
a funny term. I like that.
they've become less
Resistant,
yeah, there's a term for this. They've become less
dismissive.
chimeric. Yeah, I guess chimerical. I don't know what the term is. They yeah, they they've become less gosh, there's a term for this. Not
Adversarial.
yeah, I think the internet, the empiricists of the internet have become less they're less into hard constructionism, and they're more into they've realized they've adopted this sort of theory of figmentism, which means they realize that certain forms you create in your mind, which are part of the, we acknowledge over here from our side that they're part of the uncountable set of Platonic forms, that there are forms in your mind that are arbitrary, and human beings in their free will can reach for those.
Say what? Is this seriously what people think?
I mean, there's a certain subjectivity to empiricism, no?
Of course. I mean, the fact that they can't admit that to themselves is why they haven't made as much progress as they could have.
Well, absolutely, and it's just I think what had happened for a long time, Kurt had put these people all together, unchecked. But what happened is,
don't you think the problem was that it was a yes men situation?
well, I think that a lot of people who knew a thing or two about metaphysics maybe ended up on the chopping block, if you know what I mean.
With regards to Kurt.
Yeah, I think he blocked a couple people who were coming. So, okay, so this is an analogy you would understand. In science,
sorry, just before you start, someone wants to know who we're talking about. Is the propertarian?
Yeah, propertarianism.
Sorry,
so,
go ahead.
Yeah, that peer group. So just like in science, there's pure and applied. So that kind of analogy carries into philosophy, where you have what's called continental and analytical. And what was happening is when the continentalists would come over and say, "Hey, Kurt, XYZ, guess what? You're not repudiating, the Greek ideal primes or whatever the heck is going." Because Kurt actually dismisses a lot of continental philosophers, and he'll even take analytical philosophers who've come to continental conclusions, which means pure conclusions, in contrast to applied conclusions, and he'll dismiss the pure conclusions too. So what was happening is he was blocking a lot of kind of continentalists. But what happened over, like, I think, 3 going on 4 years is the empiricists realized, wait a minute, like, we're like insufferable to her. You know what I mean? We're like insufferable in our own company. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, the empiricists were getting empiricistical on each other, And
so like nitpicking kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. Nitpicking and right. And that's the perfect community ready to attack itself, and
oh, that's sad, man. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's because people aren't realistic. They're not realistic. It's always a too many chefs situation.
Yeah, I think what it is that, just because, well, exhibit A, or like, postulate A, just because the subjective is undecidable doesn't mean it's not, real. You know what I mean? So,
well, nothing is real in that sense. Like, that's the thing. It's like what's real is a spin the bottle, where it's sort of, where do you stop? Like, you have to define real, and I think defining real is even more challenging than defining consciousness.
So I think that Kurt might have gone a step further and said, you know what? Not only is it not real, it's not true either. And by that time, I think that people who are coming to you are people who are perhaps in need of guidance, like self-help, and they really need, like, to make clear distinctions in their life, and they're attracted to that fundamentalistic message. Because honestly, what happens is, if you keep, like, going on that trajectory, I think you would attract, rather than maybe nuanced philosophers, you're going to start attracting people more in the mid-range, like the mid-range of humanity, not the mid-range of philosophers, just the mid-range of humanity. I don't know if you kind of were keeping an eye, but it seemed like toward the end, Kurt was attracting so many average people. I didn't know how they could contribute anything to other than be yes men. You know what I mean? So.
Sure, and there's a place for that, but it's not the not the image that you want, and whatnot. I just think it's like the midwits meme, right? Mediocre white male said it before I could. That's basically perfect. Right. That's what it's. We have to suffer these people who think that they're smart, who aren't, but are utterly unable to be dissuaded of the notion that they're like some super genius. Like with you, I don't get the vibe that you are hell bent on convincing the world that you're some sort of special snowflake.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
I
I'd
think it's
be.
more of the urbane
Yeah.
image cultivation that I am very
Mhm.
sympathetic with, because it's like it's a fun hobby, you know, stuff like this. Like I really like that image
It, it
that
is,
Denise
and in many ways, the longer you hang around the narrative, any narrative, or even the narrative of even the narrative of science or the narrative of liberal arts, the more you begin to see that the story sort of tells itself. So the very very intelligent people, they they stay silent and they watch the story unfold. You know what I mean?
That's
And they
because of
don't.
the Dunning-Kruger effect, because the smart people underestimate their abilities. So what we need is for the midwits to suffer a loss of self-confidence, and for the
Yeah.
actually smart people to get the gain of the displaced self-confidence. Hopefully we could have a zero-sum game there.
Yeah, well, let's we are well, I am hard at work on getting the midwits to shut the fuck up. So I will be putting out my program. I will be putting out my 3-step, I'm not sure if it's 3 or 12 steps, but I will model it on Super Libre's well, it won't I don't know.
Like, don't you think he's the perfect example of a midwit?
Yeah,
Sorry
I
for
mean,
saying that, but it's just like,
he says that, so I don't know if he's the perfect example. He puts it out right away that he thinks he's one. Um, and can you help me? So no, maybe he's not. I don't know. What do you think?
uh, I mean, I'm honestly at a loss for words in a way. It's
Well, yeah, he's a
it
midwit.
causes cognitive dissonance for me, because it's like, okay, this person exists, but
Yeah.
it's not one of the people that I'm used to talking to. Like, there's, I could profile, like there's a certain profile of like
Mhm.
men in their, late teens, early 20s. They just want a couple quick answers, and
Yeah.
to be relatively sure that their uh, intuitions are right. And then there's like the more, people get preoccupied with like, who am I, as they get older, right? So it's always a little, there's profiles in it. For him, he's kind of like, he's outside of my normal profiling matrix. So it's a bit like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, am I being a bad sport? He's like, oh,
mhm.
you're in the Jokerton window, so you've been shown the material and you don't agree, so I'm just gonna make fun of you now. I was like,
So I guess while my smart interrupt no.
sorry, you kind of cut out there for a second. I couldn't hear you.
Sure, no problem. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, all right. Well, no, it seems like my smartphone interrupted me with two current event pieces that maybe I need to know. I don't know if I don't know if you would care to know them as well.
Well, why don't you tell us? I mean, you might as well. We've got a great
All
crowd
right.
here. We've got 5 people watching. This is probably
Oh,
what is it, an unusual time for our audience. So hopefully people can catch up on it later. These are honestly my favorite kinds of combos, because it's almost like the
yeah.
kind of combo you'd have at a party. Like Kashif and I have met in real life, for those of you who don't know, and it was chill. Like he was so friendly to me, and showed me
Yeah.
around when I was
Yeah.
stranded.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a.
Howie wants to know if your smartphone has recording quality like this. Like Kashif is just speaking directly into Google Hangouts, and that's going directly into the thing. So what are
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
using a cell phone?
I'm not one to record. I mean, that's ancient technology. I They're used to way back. I have to tell you something real honest. probably 12 years ago when Android came out, certain things weren't synced up. One was you could use your YouTube player as an MP3 player. You would minimize it and you could play sound all day. And now that's a pay for usage service that you have to have a YouTube subscription. Another crazy thing you could do in Android 1.0 is you could download a sound recorder and you were able to actually record your phone calls. And that also you're not able to do anymore. I mean, not that I was, not that that was a hobby of mine, but it is something that it's something that actually worked. Fortunately, some of those capabilities have been upgraded. I still wish we had the minimizable YouTube so I could just listen, like a podcast to different YouTube videos. But here I'm seeing that, my Android 10.0 screenshot is telling me that Trump is upset about, apparently a couple Fox News reporters confirmed that remember there's this famous picture of Putin standing in the rain at the World War I cemetery in France, and Trump's not there. So apparently Trump had canceled the event because he thought that he would, quote unquote, get rain on his hair. And he said, why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers. And he called people who were not able to dodge the draft. He was saying they were losers. That's number one on the news. If you go a little bit down, number 3, it's coming out that, I don't know if you noticed, but it seems as if some of the tech stocks had gone up by 10 times. I don't know if that's been a thing in America. Everyone's been asking what the heck is going on.
You mean with the tech bubble on the?
Yeah, with the
American...
tech bubble and all that, right? So now it's coming out that, and this is crazy. Not set, not an apparently, Maya Hoshi-san or whatever of SoftBank. They had been hedging. They had been putting up insane derivatives on the market. And apparently that kind of underwrote the entire, they're saying the entire tech bubble.
I've been writing a story about that, actually. I haven't published it yet, but I don't know if you want to. I've got some memes on it, so
should be pretty good. Yeah. Actually, let me.
I did a mathematical analysis. Like, I don't know how much you like math, but I really love it.
Oh no, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, if
not to be racist, I'm not saying just because you're Indian that you love math. I was really honestly
some people do it as a hobby and they they love it, and I love them for that.
You love the fact that they do it so that you don't have to. Okay, well, I won't bore you with the details then, but I was making a thing, and this was the main diagram.
Okay, I'm gonna hit your chat right now, see what's going on.
I didn't publish it yet because I was like, the predictions are ridiculous. There's a ridiculous spread of predictions, so it's just like, why would anyone even give a shit? But then I realized, like, people don't really understand this shit very well,
Right. It's like you're afraid somebody, right? Like I've been afraid people will steal my ideas, only to realize they don't even get it the third degree out, let alone the first degree.
People do, but it's about putting things out there in a way that you still have the final say on the interpretation of your own data, right? Like, there's that problem. It's like, well, I don't want to share. I want to keep the profits, but so it's like nobody knows what it is. But it's just like, You
Yeah,
know
no,
what
no.
you're keeping to yourself versus what you're telling people, and then you don't have to think about it. Can you see what I'm displaying yet?
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I say slightly phallic-looking question mark.
What do you mean
Um,
phallic? There's nothing phallic about that
I'm
question mark.
I'm just kidding. I just had to tease you for
Is it
once.
because it's going upwards?
I guess maybe, and then
Oh, that's just great. That's just
so
great. Now I'm gonna have to
yeah.
think about that every time I look at it.
Okay.
Anyway, so can you see what I'm talking about
I
with the 17th of August and the 5th of February and that? Can you see that diagram?
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
trying to trick you into learning math, okay? I swear. It's just a pattern thing, okay? So see how the interval between the peak and trough is getting shorter?
yeah. So the tightrope has gotten tighter,
Well, the
basically.
volatility is increasing, and if that same, like I made an extrapolation that this same pattern would continue, and basically saying that the ratio between whatever, I did some mathematical extrapolation on it. So,
Mhm.
and it's funny because it gave a prediction of like, it was going to happen in November, but I would laugh if that was actually as high as it go. Okay, I don't actually have let me just see here. I'll have to change the
Mm.
display thing. Just give me a second. So yeah, anyways, the article's not quite done yet. So
No, no, I have you. Let me just read a couple paragraphs. Maybe the censor. It says that SoftBank now is quote unquote the Nasdaq whale that has bought billions of dollars worth of U.S. equity derivatives that stopped the fevered rally in tech stocks before a sharp pullback on Thursday and Friday. It had been snapping up options that and fueled the largest ever trading volumes linked to individual companies. One banker described it as a dangerous bet. Wow! So they took their own. They took their own
yeah, they hedged
market.
against themselves.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. They
Can you see the diagram
let me jump
on the
back into.
thing?
Yeah, yeah. No,
I'm
you're
sorry to
definitely
make
gonna.
you do. I'm sorry to make you do work. Like you don't feel like I'm
Mhm.
mathematically raping you, do you?
Yeah, no.
No.
I feel very. I do not feel probed at the moment. So, um,
Okay, good, because I just honestly like what I'm
yeah.
trying to do partly is to make logic accessible to people who aren't interested in math. So
Mhm.
yeah, the math does come into it at certain points, but I'll explore math if people are interested. But yeah, don't want to push that or
Yeah.
anything.
Well.
But anyway, if the same pattern continues, what the thing projects is that, and again, this is just me being silly with numbers, not to be taken as actual fact. Do your own research,
Mhm.
etc. Blah blah blah. It predicted a peak in November and then a
Mhm.
drop in February of 2021. And then those two flat lines, those
Mhm.
are like if you return to the mean or whatever.
Right.
Inflation adjusted mean for the time interval between, well, it's on the screen there, 81 and 96 or 81 and 2009. So it'll be interesting to see whatever happens. And then the high estimate is like if the quantitative easing works perfectly, because they literally did as much quantitative easing in like 1 year, not even, as they did in the previous five. That's how
Mhm.
much the money supply increased. So
Well.
it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But yeah, that's
Mhm.
I just wanted to share that with the audience because that's what I've been. It was just funny that Nasdaq turned around right at this point, like
Mhm.
between these two boundaries, like pretty much at the high boundary of estimation. Except it was a little early, I guess, for September, not November. So accelerationism. That'd be funny if it never recovered.
Yeah. Well, now I want you to become my financial equity manager.
Oh, that's
Now
so
that,
sweet of
yeah.
you. You know
Yeah.
what though?
This.
Wealth is part of, it's part of
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
the lifestyle. It's like a fine balance. It's
Yeah.
accepting that wealth can't make you happy, but also understanding it as a thing.
As a thing. Yeah. 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 I just. This is funny. I looked at that. I looked at the domain name. It looks gorgeous there, sitting underneath the title. So I love it. I don't know when what to make of it, but it's gorgeous. And I can't say anything I was going to say about your chat audience. I was just perusing the chat. I can't see any negatives there either. Everyone's just
The chat has
hanging out.
become awesome. Like even the worst
Yeah.
behaved people are not that bad, you know. What
Yeah.
can I say? You know, it's like nobody's perfect.
No, right. Yeah, maybe, maybe just maybe they are coming to the theocratic dictator to solve these problems.
Well,
So
that's what I have to do. I have to take them into my confidence game so that they
yeah.
they want to buy my stock. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It exists in the metaphysical realm. That's my motto: is buy and never sell.
Yeah, no, I got you. I got you. So you keep your jar of souls, so to speak.
I
So
don't
you
want anybody to feel like a prisoner if that's what you're saying, but I can't help that I care about people. And yeah,
yeah,
it does kind of feel like a bit of a collection, but not in
yeah.
a bad way.
No, 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 no. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say actually, who in the heck, you know, kind of delineates their username to be pineapple hippopotamus? I'm just looking at that and like just
Yeah,
trying
he's
to.
from JF P's stream. So that's actually been one of the places, honestly, that I got an actually not terrible, eventually,
A following,
I don't
basically.
want to say a following, but that they were more receptive to my ideas, or like compared to what it's been in the past. Like in the past, it was basically I felt like I was getting up and then getting punched down, and then getting up again and getting punched down again. And then this one, like the first few times I went on, he wasn't super open to my ideas. But then
Right.
I explained
Hmm.
the uncertainty principle to him, and
Hmm.
I think he kind of got it.
Hmm.
And that was like a moment of, at least for me, like I felt like there was a moment there. So the audience seemed to become more
Yeah.
cool with me at that point. So thank God. And some of them come
Like,
in this chat, which was fucking awesome. So
yeah, no, that's amazing that you're able to earn his respect. I've always felt there's something a little bit snide and haughty to Frenchmen, and I know that's a little bit, kind of stereotypical, but to be honest, when the French want to be very dismissive, they know how to do that. They they're very good at that. And well, I mean, I guess you're from Canada, so you
well,
have
I'm immune to, not immune, but I'm partially immune to it because I come from
yeah,
Quebec. Je suis capable de parler en français.
yeah.
Je sais le débrouiller en français.
Oh, gotcha,
It's
gotcha.
funny
Yeah,
because over time my accent has shifted into like a literal European French. I can't even help it. It's like stuck in
oh,
European French because I didn't speak French past like, grade 6 or so. And then I spoke it
mhm.
again at work, but that was all in like Europe. Damn this
Mhm.
accent stuff. Oh, mediocre white male says JF is a goober. I'm not sure who mediocre white male is. I've seen it. I don't even know what other chats. I know I've seen that account around. JF to me is cool.
No, I haven't.
He doesn't want to accept the quantum mind hypothesis. I think that's a shame. Uh,
Yeah.
because I think eventually, like, I would honestly love to have
Mhm.
somebody who wanted to further chemistry, and I know that that's nobody in this circle, but
Mhm.
I would love to have somebody who wanted to do chemistry like I showed them how to do entropy in chemistry. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. That would be
Or
cool.
even
And real quick,
biology.
I'm
Like
not sure.
I could literally show JF how to do quantum biology, make him the best fucking biologist in the world. But he's like, I don't think I accept the quantum mind hypothesis. Like,
Yeah.
is it because I'm saying it and there's something about me, or is it because quantum sounds like, I know quantum has baggage, but it's like hating religion because some people are crappy at religion, right? It's like that doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say no. I started uh I started perusing YouTube and said, well, let me find Gary AP's channel. and I'm seeing it. So apparently he's just his last post is, I was demonetized by YouTube. What should I do? That is literally his most recent video. And then carefully looking at the metadata on his channel, it appears that half of his followers have been purged. So he did have 50,000. Now he's down to 22,000. So that looks like a follower purge rather than a new. At first, it was so. At first, I thought he maybe made a new channel. Then I said no. All his stuff is here. What's actually going on is, it looks like there's been a purge of followers. I mean,
Someone in the chat is saying, it'd be more receptive if I said Penrose takes these concepts seriously. In my experience, the more you try to convince someone of something,
yeah,
the more resistant they become. So my approach is, I just state facts, but I make it clear that I don't care if you agree with me or not. Because if you don't want to agree with me, that's your choice. Yeah, what am I going to do? Go on a show and be like, oh, you don't know about Penrose theory. That seems like a shooting myself in the foot type situation, doesn't it? To me,
yeah,
anyway.
it does. It does. I'm no, all right. I've gone. Yeah, I have to say, I've gone too deep into the whole of meta-modernism. I'm now Googling things on YouTube. I got to get out of here. I got to look away. YouTube is like, it's like, watching them welders at work. They say, hey, I have the goggles. You shouldn't look at the light. So I'm going to avert my eyes from the light.
Oh, look, somebody in the chat wants to come on the stream. Yeah, man, you totally should, because we're always looking for new people. And I've been trying to get Kashif on for a while, so I'm really glad he finally came. So look what you've done. You've inspired someone else to come on.
No, that's
great.
wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I think it's, to be honest, I think life is all about just well, what I was going to ask you is, Jen, when are you going to get demonetized by YouTube?
I'm not even going to fucking monetize myself. You know what? I don't want people to feel like they owe me money. I want people to improve their own lives.
Improve their lives.
If people want to give me money, then great. But if, most people don't have a whole lot of money. That's a fact. And money is not that important at the end of the day. Yeah. But if somebody has a project they want to do, then that's something different. That type of thing costs money, whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's.
I don't even. The thing is, like, I don't even honestly want to bring the bother of money into the equation. It's.
Yeah.
It's about, I don't have anything that anybody wants to pay for. It's something that people need, but they don't want.
Yeah. And well, another question I personally ask myself is, again, not to be self-effacing. I try not to be inordinately self-effacing, but why should anyone want to give money to me? That's the basic question. I mean, if I feel so strongly about something, maybe I'll just publish it myself. Maybe I will.
Yeah, why not? I mean, why not? Like, I've had a blog since 2015. I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, pretty happy. Yeah, right. Because I think that satisfaction or personal achievement and success, personal achievement comes from just conveying your ideas, authentically. And that's the goal. So gosh, I had two questions left on the tip of my
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm having fun. This guy in the chat seems cool, and he says he wants to come on, so
Yeah, well,
You should
that's what.
email me and we can set it up and it'll be loads of fun. And Kashif, I hope you'll come back because, like, even on Week in Review, like, even if it's just for a bit.
Mhm. Yeah, it would be meaningful. Yeah, I think it would mean a lot. I guess I just gotta, Jordan Peterson said I gotta get my room organized, and I gotta get my mental, kind of like where I'm going, what I'm doing, kind of my house in order. I gotta feel as if I have to feel as if I'm, you know what I mean? Just, uh, let me hold on. I'm trying to. So anyway, um, well, my question was, and this is, I guess, how we were. I had a question. You specifically stated that consciousness does not layer itself, right? Is that what you said?
No, I said it does layer.
Okay, it
Consciousness
does layer.
does layer.
Okay, got it. So what I was gonna sort of uh I was gonna ask you, I guess I should just hypothesize, uh do we see these layers every day? Where can these layers be found? And I'm gonna actually give you my side of what I think it is, and then you go. I was just gonna tell you what is your. Yeah.
You want to go ahead?
No, if you want to go ahead first, like, do we see these layers in our day to day?
Well, again, you got to pick a definition of consciousness.
Okay. All right. Well,
So,
I'm just gonna go ahead.
the thing is, if you don't want to commit to a definition of consciousness, I got to give you two answers to that question, and I don't know if you really want to tune in for the full two answers, but
Mhm,
basically, the folding, the
mhm,
layering, is
mhm.
the balloon effect of the sphere of consciousness.
Okay.
Like
Okay. I can.
the ballooning is to fit the consciousness inside the spine.
Okay. Okay. Got it. It's almost like a bubbling up.
So, well,
Um.
there's one bubble, okay, and it's got
Okay.
a fuck ton of light in it, okay?
Okay.
It's a bubble and it has a
Yeah.
fuck ton of light in it. And what does light do?
What does light do?
Yeah.
It becomes matter.
No, it expands.
Okay. Okay.
It's not a trick question. You just have to think about the material qualities of it. So, what do we know that
Mhm.
light does? It expands.
Right.
So, what does that mean in terms of if it's a sphere
Mhm.
and it's expanding? What does that mean? It's just this bigger and
It,
bigger sphere, right?
right. The waves grow farther and farther apart.
So, all the energy is at,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's not a perimeter, it's like the shell.
Right.
Everything is going away from the center because it expands and it expands away from the center and it makes this big, big, big thing. So all the energy is saturated in this. It's like a shell of a sphere shape. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So that shell is oscillating. You can think of it as like spinning as well. So if
Mhm.
it continued to spin in that particular array, it would eventually let off an electrical discharge. So because there's nothing in the center. And whenever there's a space between energetic dipoles, there's a
Mhm.
potential for a discharge, right? So in order to minimize a chance of a discharge, it's going to fold itself like the balloon animal into the
Mhm.
familiar diagram that I showed before.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So the folding is you're starting with something spherical and large, and then it's folding itself like a balloon into this compressed shape to fit within the spine. And when you're experiencing day to day consciousness normally, you're perceiving it through a bunch of layers. That's why you have this concept of Maya,
Mhm.
because it's like
Okay.
layering of
Mhm.
an electromagnetic field upon itself over and over and over in such a thickness that you get these little disks that can render images upon them.
Right. Right. Gotcha. So, Well,
So it's a literal layering, right? The thing that we experience as a single thing is the product of a layering. We can't, I mean, maybe we can start to experience layering, I don't know, but like we don't, we're not like, I don't think you can directly sort of
what if
trance your way into that state.
what if I again mention what I think the layering is?
Well, the
Would
question
you?
is what is being layered, right? Like what substance is being
Okay.
formed into layers? Like I can tell you the substance in my case is a light crystal. It's light
Mm-hmm.
bound to a physical body and bent in on itself and swirled around and twisted so that the chances of an electric discharge is minimized. That's the law of electrical entropy.
Right. 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 All right. So I'll just, at the risk of kind of maybe making myself a pariah in your eyes.
I really
I'll
don't
just,
think you have to worry about that. I think
okay.
you should feel good about expressing your ideas and not take it personally if I correct them, because my intention is just to get you to have the correct perception of things so that your own experience may be as good as mine is.
Gotcha. 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 Um, I. Okay.
Sorry, you cut out again for like the last 2 seconds.
Okay. The you didn't catch me. What did you say?
Yeah, just repeat what you just said. It cut out quickly.
I'm just gonna come out and say that the layers of consciousness that you see around you are actually manifesting themselves as physical space.
Well, yeah, of course. It's a literal geometric physical argument.
Right.
And
Right.
the geometry,
So
the thing is that the center of the geometry is the spine. So it's like, oh, I have to put the center of mass in the center of the spine.
right. Right. So I I what I proffer to believe is that what I profess to believe is that when you walk through physical space, you're actually walking through the liminal layers of consciousness.
Well,
And
again, it depends on your definition of consciousness, right?
yeah, yeah, true.
So,
True.
what do you think? I mean, how are we going to define? Why doesn't the audience chime in? I don't want to put Kashif on the spot because I want him to feel comfortable and come back and be happy about the whole quote unquote learning experience. But at the end of the day, like, I don't want to have to deal with two definitions.
Yeah, almost like a schizo. Right, you don't want to deal with a schizotypal dynamic here, right? Where
Well,
you don't.
people look at how people communicate. They're using words that a person coming in from the outside would have to conclude half the time that they were being intentionally unclear for the purpose of sounding smart. So the guy in the audience asks, "Do you think consciousness is computable? By what?" And you have to define what is a computation, right? So remember, when you're going to ask these questions, you're eventually going to have to regress back to your axiom.
Yeah.
Everything comes back to axioms, right? So what is a computation? Okay, so here's my argument for computation. This
Yeah.
is right out of the Copenhagen interpretation. So I didn't even come up with this. I'm
Right.
literally trying to be as agreeable as possible. And I don't even have to say it. Someone else has already said it.
Right. Right. I have you. Well, since we're just. I mean, okay. Well, so I got to catch my breath now. This
Well,
is.
that's the thing. It's like it sounds tautological, right? So observation is waveform reduction.
No, so yeah, this is pedal to the metal now. This chat is really I feel as if I've gone to the chiropractor and the chiropractor says we're not going to make you 10 feet long in this session. We're going to make you 20 feet long. And, yes, we're really pushing the boundaries here of consent, you might say. So we might be entering that area, the no go zone, but or as Bill O'Reilly would call it, the no spin zone.
Hey, I'm not
But
saying you have to come to a conclusion. I don't have a conclusion either.
okay, okay, gotcha. No, it's just
And like, no matter what you say, what I'm trying to do is get like a statistical basis for what direction I choose to go in, because I just
yeah,
want to go in the direction that people are going to understand it if
right,
they
right.
actually want to understand it.
Okay, okay, got it. So what I'm gonna say to the member of the audience who asked a question that it's almost beyond it's almost beyond the imagination of humanity right now. Uh, consciousness is computable. Consciousness is computable, and it has a specific form.
Now,
Uh,
consciousness is the thing upon which computations take place.
right, right. But I would go a step further, and I would say that you can make a computing machine from computation.
Well, the thing is that everything is all observations or computations. That's
Yeah, yeah,
Copenhagen
yeah.
3, man. That's
Yeah,
Copenhagen 3.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to let me rephrase that.
Why are you sorry? I'm agreeing with you. You're like trying to not agree with me. I'm telling you, I am
Okay, okay.
agreeing
So
with you.
I would go as far as to say as uh, consciousness can be turned. Yeah, consciousness is a you can make a computing. Consciousness is computable, and you can make a computing machine from consciousness. And it has not only a specific form. I would say it has an ideal form. Yeah.
I think
Would
a
you?
lot of people have a lot of ideas about this, but most people need to realize that like mankind has struggled with this question forever. And the
Yeah.
more specific we can get to the answer, the more our own sort of impotence to resolve a lot of these more fundamental concepts, like what we were going to kind of getting into before. It's like, well, space time is the only thing that exists, so everything cycles and everything's time. So, what does that even mean? In
You
terms
know,
of
I
time
have this.
entropy,
So
like the time entropy dichotomy, like can we even pose the question of the time entropy dichotomy until we're actually using this system, and then we'll be able to conceive of the time entropy dichotomy and then measure it? Because it's like
okay,
there's
okay.
a
So
limitation, because it's like
well,
nobody else is helping me think about this stuff, enough of them anyway. Maybe
okay,
that'll
gotcha.
change.
Well, right, right. Well, I would say that what we would call the proverbial computable machine of consciousness. It would look like this. It would be the ball of negative entropy spinning at the speed of uncountability, which is infinity to the power of infinity.
That's nonsensical. You can't just put a bunch of words together and think
No,
that
no.
it's going to sound
How
good.
about this? It creates a diametric metamagnetic cylinder.
I don't know what metamagnetic means. I only know what regular
Okay.
magnetic is.
Okay. Just you just have to imagine that you accept it. Like you don't have to know what metamagnetism is. So just kind of just
So you
hang in
want to
the
know if
air.
I hypothetically agree with you?
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks. I really appreciate that. So you would basically have a diametric metamagnetic cylinder that has uh, an uncountable number of primes. That is infinity to the power of infinity number of primes that are distributed across an infinite surface area. So the cylinder has an infinite surface area, but it contains an uncountable number of prime numbers. And that would be the ideal form.
That sounds like some Gödel incompleteness theorem tier
Yeah. Yes. No.
Nonsense.
Absolutely. It
Dude,
would.
the Gödel incompleteness theorem is fucking wrong, dude. Like, it's invented to fuck people over out of understanding this shit. It's fucking, like,
Uh-huh.
literal, like, gay ops, not to be a bitch or anything, but that's really
No,
bad.
I have you. Well, I think that so I have a there's a name there's a name for the metamagnetic machine of consciousness, and the term I use is
You do
called
realize that
transport.
in physics, things include their own meta. The geometry
Yeah,
encompasses the meta, so you can't just impose meta constructs on physics because physics has its own
yeah,
metaphysics.
yeah. I
It
have
has
you.
tacit metaphysics. You do realize that, right?
Yes, I do realize that. I would go a step further, and I'm not even going to go there.
Well,
So,
I am literally challenging the metaphysics of modern physics. I'm saying it's impossible to take derivatives on a quantum physical level. So, I mean, I get it. It's just
yeah,
you have to know what
I
you're
think
up
you're
against.
well. You're correct. You're correct that it is impossible to take derivatives on a quantum physical level because
Well,
you will.
it's possible to conceive of a derivative. If you attempt to take a derivative, it's going to interfere with the system, and the
Right.
derivative itself will be computationally equivalent to a measurement in some approximate sense, but you're going to get a Heisenberg interval rather than
Yeah.
an actual differential.
Well, you're gonna get a pseudo random number is what you're gonna get. Um, and yeah, well, I was actually gonna say that, but you went ahead and said it. Yeah, you're gonna always get an approximate number. If you take a derivative of a quantum state, you will always get an approximation. You will never get the value in itself.
Well, there is no value because the values that exist,
Yeah.
when we measure them, destroy them in some sense. Not fully, but they compress them. I suppose you could look at it, distortion. It's
Right.
distortion of the field. So like the act of taking a measurement and distorting the distortion of the field, those are the same thing. And
Mhm.
that's basically, I think that fact is the thing that people are going to struggle with for like a long time because the
Right.
implications are just too much for people to really appreciate. I'm glad that you're open to it though.
Yeah. I think at this, to be honest, now just to be very kind of humble about it, at this kind of stage in human development, we just, I mean, it would proverbially, it would be quite literally blow our mind. I mean, we just cannot imagine, um, you know, the implicate, the kind of the stage of sort of human consciousness that. Right, I mean, to reach the actual metastructure of consciousness, I mean, you're talking about and quantum consciousness. That's even a step further because that's actually transcendental rationalism, where you can actually measure distances between, um, conscious states. You'd be able to measure them discretely. I mean, that's amazing. But yeah, maybe I sound like I'm pulling things out of my hat now. Sorry if sorry
Well,
if
I'm actually pretty happy that there's so much audience participation. I really do appreciate that.
yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. It's I'm checking the chat. I check the chat on your queue. When you say chat, I'm looking at what everyone's saying. But let me see what we're into. Let me see. We are at the 2.5 hour mark. I did have two things left to say.
Sure, Ray, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how long your shows go. Is your family cool with this? I mean, I suppose you have people around you. I mean, how are they cool with your podcast? Like this, it
Oh
seems
yeah.
to take. Okay, they're down. So, okay, all right. I was gonna say because this would take, if I did this, this would take a significant amount of time away from my peer group. I mean, if I had, I mean, you find it to be quite okay.
I live out in the middle of nowhere. I
Okay.
feel very I feel
Okay.
very relaxed and happy about what I'm doing. So
I got you. I got you.
I
All
can
right.
connect with nature here better and the time
Gotcha.
investment is just like, I don't know, it's fun because it's like I just like sharing ideas and hearing where people are at. So even if
No,
I'm not familiar with all of it, it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Well, the sticks are red in this day and age. I mean, if you can really care for yourself, I mean, that's kind of the the hot thing to do nowadays. That's the way to go. So, but yeah, the couple things I was going to mention in passing before we kind of settle down for the night is because it is like 3 o'clock right now, close to 3 on the East Coast. Because well, the first thing I was going to tell you, I was going to leave you with a question. I was hoping you could just answer it yes or no. This would kind of really tell us, what you believe versus what I believe. What I was going to say was, we had this waves. In your sort of as ascertainment, or your ascertaining, how about this? In your ascertaination, do you?
Assertion?
Okay, okay. So in the way that you ascertain things, do you proffer that waves have an uncountable number of triangles, or do they have a countable number, meaning an infinite number of triangles? Which one do you think it is?
What do you mean by triangle? Like, like, is there any geometric constraint on the triangle? Like, is it an inscribed
Yes.
triangle or?
Yes. Imagine a triangle made of pure. Imagine a triangle of electricity in itself.
Okay, just hang on a second. There's someone in the chat saying, please write an explication. What do you want me to explain exactly? You have to actually ask a question. I have a blog. I've got tons of stuff on my blog. Could probably find what you're looking for there. Okay, so back to what you were saying, Kashif, about ascertaining things.
Right. Right. So I want to direct your attention away from the triangle, as in the triangle, the Platonic form. And I want to direct your attention to...
But you didn't even let me answer the question.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
You want to know how many triangles exist within what?
So how many triangles exist on the surface of a curve?
On the surface of a curve, well, there'd be, in theory, there'd be infinitely many. Those types of answers are not particularly useful. What is useful is the measurement limit, which is that you can only take 3 linearly independent measurements per canonical order. And so if you were going to say a triangle was comprised of measurements, then, there'd be a triangle per order of per order of volumetric magnitude.
Okay, volumetric magnitude.
The triangle would be a metaphor for measurement, because there's always 3 measurements you can make, but it's not going to be a perfect, equilateral triangle, because each measurement is additive, as in it's doing a measurement changes the system.
Right, gotcha. Well, I like that term you're using. The term you used, volumetric magnitude. I would not say it that way, but that almost sounds like the electricity in itself, or what I like to say. I don't even want to go there, but
well, yeah, electricity exists in a manifold way, so it exists on all orders of magnitude. And within the orders of magnitude, there's an attraction towards the maximum entropy state, which changes depending on the order of magnitude, because on the smallest order of magnitude, the change of state, the thing that dictates the change of state is the quantum periodic table period. And then
Got it.
as you progress outwards, if you start at the periodic table and you go out to the size of the universe, you get 14 orders.
Right. Right. So my question is, let's say that the triangle is a Platonic form. Okay. Well, okay, let's say it the other way. Let's say the Platonic form is a triangle, right? Okay. If that is the case, what would be the triangle in itself?
The triangle would represent the
Mhm.
potential space of measurements before they were taken. So you'd have
Okay,
like
wonderful.
a triangle, but a manifold triangle type of thing.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Believe it or not, I think you threw a ball out of left field, and we're actually no, like I sort of caught it. Caught it means we're saying the same thing. We're like agreeing on it, using with two completely different terminology reference sets. You know what I mean? So what you are calling, what was the term? What was the term you used?
With respect to what exactly?
You said the triangle in itself. I said, what is the triangle itself? And you said,
Oh, it would represent the potential space of measurements before they
got
were
it.
taken.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, that is you're basically kind of broaching on solving.
Well, the triangle is the Platon. If you want to do a coordinate transform into that space, the triangle would become the Platonic form. So in my thing, because of what I'm doing, I'm purely in the sphere, but then you could set it up to make a transform into the triangle, which would have to be this space of potential measurements wherein your triangle starts as equilateral and then becomes compressed through a series of observations.
Okay, got it. So what if I told you that the potential space of measurement was the same thing as the volumetric magnitude, which was the same thing as the triangle in itself?
Well, they're not the same thing. They are transformations within.
They're transformations.
They're called an I want to say isomet.
Okay,
I'm not actually sure how to pronounce that. I'm thinking isometric, but I'm not sure how to actually say if it's isometry or what it is. I've been listening to too much JF. He's given me a French accent with my.
Well, I think that what you are talking about, the triangle in itself, or the space.
Okay, I got the word. It's isomorphism. Okay, so you could say that there's an informational isomorphism between certain spaces, i.e., the amount of information held within these spaces relative to each other is the same.
Got it.
The manner in which you access that information differs.
Got it. So what if we could call this volumetric magnitude, or this space of potential measurement, or the electricity in itself, or what I call the triangle in itself? What if we could call it the isotome? Like
whatever we come up with, it's got to be something that's easy to say, because like people just won't say it if it's not easy to say.
Well,
that's my only thing, but also it should capture the spirit of what it is you're trying to convey. Because if you don't convey the concept accurately, someone else is going to come along and usurp it, and they're going to use a different word. So you might as well get the right word on the first try. So that's why it's good to do this back and forth. So it's like the question is, how much information is there in that potential space.
Okay, got it. So I'll give that to you.
The answer is what? How much information is in that?
Okay. All right. So the term is isotome. Isotome, like atom, like you have atom. So instead of atom, you have isotome, which is isotom. Okay.
But why do you want iso? Because if you're talking about a triangle, shouldn't it have tri in it somewhere?
Well, the old term was trieme, but now we're going to call it like trieme, like the trilateral meme. But now we're just going to call it the isotome. The isotome. I like that term. So kudos to first of all, kudos to you for bringing that up via JF Gary Avey. So
an isomorphism is a continuous transformation of something.
Right.
It's a mapping between two structures. So
right.
Informationally, what we would say is that there's a certain amount of it. There's what's called the universal information field, which is just everything, right?
Right.
So how many dimensions does the universal information field have? The answer is it has 14 volumetric orders of magnitude.
Right.
So I don't know if you agree with that or what, or if you understand what it is that I'm saying, but
here's how I would describe the structure of the trilateral meme, or according to its new term, the isotome. It is basically a triangle, an equilateral triangle, with a surface area equaling the surface area equaling the depth. Surface area equaling the depth, and that surface area would be 2 ohms. Yeah.
Ohms is not a length measurement. Ohms is a resistance measurement.
Sorry. Let me rephrase that. Okay. So it would be an equilateral triangle with each side having a Planck length of 1.
No, the triangle size would change depending on what order of magnitude you're on.
Okay, got it. So let's do an equilateral triangle with 1 Planck length on each side, with 1 Planck unit.
No, that wouldn't work, because the triangle length has to conform to whatever structure is being mapped to, which is going to have to conform to whatever dimension it's in the 14-dimensional universe. Because we're on one of the orders of the 14-dimensional universe. I forget offhand which one it is, but the smallest order is the periodic table, and then the largest order is like the largest interstellar distance. Like I don't exactly know where we are on that, but the size of the triangle is going to depend on the size of the triangle is actually irrelevant. The triangle is independent of size. What the triangle would do would be, if you were writing out field equations, it could be a shorthand for how many observations had taken place per canonical order. Because once an observation takes place, there's a reduction to the information to the available information field.
Got it. So, well, I don't know. You just maybe we're going into science fiction now, but I would argue...
not at all. This is real. I mean, all I'm saying is that there are 14 orders of volumetric magnitude in the universe that can be observed.
Okay, I have you. No, I'm talking about so like my triangle. Maybe that's science fiction. I don't know.
No, it could be something. It's just that the thing you're trying to measure has to do with information that's already been modulated through people's minds. So you need to find the 14-dimensional coordinate system that actually is a conformal map to this space, i.e., your basis vectors for the set of all possible thoughts.
Got it.
Or whatever, not even thoughts. It's all the thoughts and the meta thoughts, like the whole line of possible things that could be associated with those constructs in some way.
Right. I have. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how I would have formulated this, but I had this idea of the trilateral meme, and it was basically an equilateral triangle with a one Planck length unit on each side, and with a surface area, because I'm kind of coining this idea of electricity in itself. So it would have a surface area of 2 ohms, a width of 2 ohms, and on a differential curve, it would make up, because if you took a platonic triangle, there would be an uncountable number in a curve. However, if you took the isotome, there would be an infinite number of these electricity in themselves units in the curve of any length. So
Yeah, there's no true infinities though, because the measurement limit puts a restriction on how much infinities you can have.
How many infinite? Is this something you came up with, or what is the
No,
measurement?
it's just there's just a limitation to how much infinities you can have. So infinities are pre-measurement, and post-measurement, the domain of observable events is restricted.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm actually going to write that down, though. I'm going to jot that down. Isotome equals trilateral mean. But what I was going to mention was that I think that the isotome is the connection between kind of the Einsteinianism and or sort of uncertainty, Einsteinian uncertainty and the quantum state. I think that there is electricity in itself is a substance that connects gravity and light. So the isotome is a bridge. An infinite number of them are the bridge, or even one of them. Even one of them can be the bridge. So one of them in theory, but in reality, there's an infinite number of them, are the bridge between gravity and the quantum state, which is light. So I don't know what your feeling is on that.
It just sounds very Hindu to me.
I have you, and it's one of those things. If you say it in like a propertarian circle, they were pretty much like it was bemusement. It was from laughter to outrage. Empiricists don't like to hear this concept, because basically what I was saying was I had it was based, this idea of surface area equaling the width. This was based on an idea I was calling electricity in itself, and I described the ohms, the number of ohms, rather than a charge. I described it as a surface area of this isotomic shape. So that was
yeah, I mean, you're in an area that you can't get the buy-in because they don't see the value, because it's never been presented to them in such a way of like the universe being one unified whole. And obviously the universe has some type of implicate order, and you can see it, you can see it with stuff like snowflakes, right? Like they're not triangles, they're more of a hexagonal shape. But a hexagon is, you can easily break that down into 6 triangles, right? So the triangle is some type of foundational shape in the universe. It's just a question of like, it's a question really of, how are you going to take that shape and mold it into something that is irrefutable by a scientific standard, and that ends up being really hard to do, because people don't agree on axioms in science.
Absolutely not. And this triangle, very honestly, is sharp enough to poke a hole in empiricism. And I think that's why that's what they were not buying. this idea that electricity in itself is tautological with the concept of surface area. That was very hard to kind of come to grips with. And I argued that it actually unites, it actually connects, the concepts of Einsteinian space with Einsteinian, it connects Einsteinian space with Einsteinian relativity, and that was a low note.
Cool. Well, let's wrap it up. We're coming up on 3 hours. It's been a great chat. I'm just getting a little hungry, and hopefully we can continue it again sometime real soon.
Got it. Yeah, I really appreciate the chat, and thanks so much, Jen, for kind of poking through all my ideas, and I appreciate the conversation.
Did you have any final words for the audience before we say bye? And for those of you who want to check out, I mean, I know you gave me the website to put in the description. I don't know if you want to give any other way for people to get in touch with you or not. It's all good. There's some real wackos on YouTube, so I understand if you don't want to.
Well, I can tell that you're a podcast host now. With the final words, that is a very veteran question. A question from someone who's been around the block. Well, my final thought is that, to this question, is mathematics real? I would say that the final falsifiable statement in mathematics is this idea that the number of Platonic forms is uncountable. And that, I believe, is the final falsifiable statement in mathematics. Moreover, if the statement that the number of Platonic forms is in fact uncountable can be proven, you will have proven that mathematics is real. So that is my final thought. That is the last falsifiable statement.
Well, that's sounding like a very fascinating topic that I hope we can go into at a future time. And yeah, I hope everyone's enjoyed our chat. And we'll talk to you all on Week in Review, Sunday, Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thanks for coming on, Kashif. It was a great chat. Thanks for tuning in, audience. We'll talk to you again real soon.
All right, real soon.
Yeah, but that's just so to say, a worthless opinion of.
It's so important that she can't be told, she won't be told that it's wrong. And
bringing it back to Church of Entropy and her attack dog Gandalf the White.
Why don't you learn to shut up and fuck your goddamn logic?
They control the media, and the media is capable of making the sheeple believe in anything.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, we've had these streams, and I've been doing the Church of Entropy, and she's been bringing on new people, and like we did those streams on like stream etiquette. We walked through like the technology.
I have like very strongly negative opinions of the kind of Brundle clique.
Is she trying to garner herself cult prestige by associating herself with a retard?